This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way Wyoming wakes up.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, March 25th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Kaur. A 15-year-old Glen Rock girl's sophomore year of high school was marked by anonymous and fraudulent texts by someone who was working to make others hate her. Now almost 17, Jillian Holman didn't get her natural good cheer back until last Wednesday when 41-year-old Glen Rock woman Marcy Smith was sentenced to probation on 2 stalking charges in Douglas Circuit Court. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the stalking was more than just bombarding the girl with messages or following her around.
There's an impersonation element where loved ones of Jillian's were receiving what looked like screenshots or text conversations where a Jillian contact was saying horrible things or was insulting people. The Holmans, even though they confirmed her innocence and in the end they completely believed her, it did rattle their family.
Holman and her family are hoping that legislation can be enacted that would enhance penalties when adults stalk minors. President Donald Trump's jumbo jet remained parked at the Cheyenne Regional Airport on Monday. It's hard to miss with a dark blue, red, and white body and Trump printed near the front and a large waving American flag on the tail. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that the Trump Organization's Boeing 757-200, which is dubbed Trump Force One, landed at the Cheyenne Airport sometime around late afternoon to early evening Saturday and has drawn considerable attention.
This is the Trump family's personal private airplane. This is not to be confused with Air Force One, which is the presidential airplane that now is at Trump's disposal that he's president again. It's unknown who exactly was taking the flight. His family, namely his daughter Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner, have come to Wyoming before and taken a similar plane while frequenting the Brush Creek Ranch in Saratoga.
They're hopeful that a controversial Bureau of Land Management land use plan can be changed more to their liking, even as Wyoming Republican Congresswoman Harriet Hageman joined a push to revise BLM plans across the West. Sweetwater County Commissioner Taylor Jones told Outdoors reporter Mark Hines that county officials recently met with Hageman, adding that from the county's perspective, it would be best to revise the proposed Rock Springs Area Resource Management Plan, but not completely scrap it.
The new Secretary of the Interior kind of put a hold on it for revision, and now there's also legislation that's been introduced to Congress to kind of halt, revise, and possibly even reverse these resource management plans for the BLM all across the West, including out of the Rock Springs office and the Buffalo Field office in Wyoming. I talked to the Sweetwater County Commissioner today, and he said they don't want to just totally scrap it and start over because they said that could take years. They'd rather revise what they got and from their perspective tip a little bit more toward multiple use towards things like motorized access, energy exploration, and those sorts of things.
The BLM manages about 3.6 million acres of land from the Rock Springs office, the bulk of it in Sweetwater County. The BLM's preferred plan would have designated 1.8 million acres, or about half, as areas of critical environmental concern.
Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
The Washakie County Sheriff's Office is investigating human remains discovered by a Wyoming game and fish warden on Sunday. The unnamed warden had been tracking a deer collar in a remote area of the county when he came across the remains. Cowboy State Daily's Jen Coker reached out to authorities about the find, but was told there isn't much information they can release.
They wouldn't provide a location, nor would they provide any other details. I also spoke to the coroner, and he was going to meet with the dentist to compare dental records. Again, he would not say whose dental records he was comparing to, if it was one person or 12. So not much information is available at this time, but I will report anything as soon as I have it available.
Currently, Brianna Mitchell is the only person reported missing in Washakie County. The then 28-year-old Worland woman's car was found abandoned and stuck on a rugged 2-track trail near Worland in the summer of 2023. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Kaur for Cowboy State Daily.
For a Native American child living in poverty, opportunities are limited and filled with obstacles. Generational trauma, poverty, and a disconnect from their culture. These children are looking for a new direction, a chance at a better life for their families and communities. At St. Lebre Indian School, Native American children get that chance.
I like that they try to keep us safe. I do feel safe here.
My favorite thing about Lebre is how they incorporate our cultural values into our everyday education.
St. Lebre is more than a school. Here, every child gets the education and tools to become the change makers of tomorrow.
Graduating from Lebre will allow me to attend bigger universities and colleges through their scholarship programs.
Learn more about how St. Lebre is helping lead our children to a future that is proud, prosperous, and free. Learn more at stlebre.org.
All right, good morning, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake. So you have me for a few more days this week, and then you have me next week as well. We have a guest that is joining this morning. Let's welcome Jen. Jen, how are you? Yeah, good. It's bright and early. You good. Oh, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I am not used to live stuff as much as Jake is, and talking for 4 hours is one tough task. So never doubt Jake's talent. Oh, great. So I don't have your help much. No, I'm just kidding. uh, J- Jen, how do you pronounce your last name? Coker. Okay, great. And Jen, tell the folks a little bit about yourself. I know you've been on the show with Jake, but just like myself, there are many people that are just tuning in to the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show for the first time. So we're kind of getting to re-know or know you for the first time. Well, cold cases, crime, drama, all of it is extremely popular and also really important to bring those stories to light, especially some of those cold case files. There was a story that was on Cowboy State Daily about the young gal who had that impersonation and stalking. And I read it and I felt like I was in a crime drama. I couldn't stop, and a lot of those TV shows or stories you speak of or write are those that I just get completely glued to. Yeah, I think it's ultra shocking, right? Especially when it's an adult to a child. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. That's what I say. Yeah, it was, but, back to, kinda just that story writing and that storyline and all of that and how important it is, and I appreciate what you folks do with Cowboy State Daily and what you do as well. One question, what are you working on? Well, it's a two-parter. I would like to know, what are you working on for Cowboy State Daily? And then if at all, any teases into your, personal, ventures? Yeah, sometimes it's not quick, and those stories are not easy to write. They take time, they take patience as well. So, how is it writing a story like that? I mean, it's not sunshine and rainbows. Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, Jen, it's great to get some info from you. What are you up to in your personal life? Are you writing any books? Awesome. Well, the stories in this day and age, like we said earlier, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. So, like you said, there's plenty of stories out there for you. They just need somebody like yourself to write them. Oh, yeah. Interesting. I've seen the stuff on like Netflix or one of the streaming things. I had no idea. That's crazy. Wow. Well, I'll be hopefully asking you about that next time, Jen. We get to chat. Jen Coker with the Cowboy State Daily crew on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. Jen, it's been fantastic. I'll let you go, and we'll chat soon. Thank you. You too. All righty. That was fantastic to have Jen on there and chatting about a little true crime and drama and a lot of stuff that she covers is not easy to cover. So I always think about some of the crew that writes these stories and how they actually um, uh, go about it as well. So again, thank you to Jen for joining. It is Tuesday. It's the 25th. It's the last week of March. We have some great weather. Dawn Day, of course, we'll have some more information on that here. But it's going to be a great show. I'm going to have Greg back on. Jen was just on. We have another gentleman who's an old time radio guy who will be joining the show, and he loves to tell stories. And so looking forward to that. It's the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake.
Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Core, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, and its journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in DuBois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean to our everyday lives? Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily Video Newscast every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com. This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Gracie and Pedro might not get along so well.
They're standing on my tail.
But there's one thing they agree on. There's a right seat for everyone.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Whether you're a dog,
Hold on, Pooch.
a cat, a fish, or a rat.
And I'm a ferret.
Be sure to travel safe.
How can you be so sure? I'm absolutely positive.
On your next adventure, make sure your children are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
So I wanted
All right, folks, back in action, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake. Glad to be here. Glad to enjoy this very nice weather that most of Wyoming will be enduring this week. On Thursday, it looks like everybody in the state will be in the 70s. Great weather, a lot of spring-like activities. Spring break for a lot of kids and families celebrating not only in the state of Wyoming, but across the region here. And according to AAA, spring break travel is all about warm weather destinations. Although it's interesting because they have two parts to this. One, of course, warm weather destinations that everybody wants to go to for spring break. And then the second part is the fact that Gen Zers, the cowboy core aesthetic is attracting travelers to Western-themed destinations, which Wyoming is a Western-themed destination. Now, if you're mixing the warm weather and Western theme, you might want to go to Oklahoma, Texas, something like that. But it sounds like, according to reports, that a lot of the young kids and the folks that are traveling really embracing the cowboy lifestyle and the Western theme there. So not surprising. Every time I try to go get a cowboy hat, I've been wearing hats for years, and every time I try to go get one, it seems like somebody is sold out of cowboy hats because a lot of folks like to wear and don cowboy core. And according to this report from AAA, that is extremely popular, especially with the Gen Z travelers. Another thing that's popular with the younger travelers compared to the older travelers which is interesting to me because as I get older, I kind of do like to travel alone. I've traveled alone a lot when I was young too, but Gen Zers are opting for more solo spring break trips instead of the big group spring break trips that you've seen, and a lot of times to Fort Lauderdale or warm areas like that. So spring break, ever so popular, but not as much on the side with the Gen Zers of the big group activities, more on the solo. Also on this report for spring break, which we are in, and some folks have spring break this week, some folks what school, public, private, etc. But for travel, costs have risen. Of course, we knew that compared to 2024, with domestic round trip flights averaging $820, international up a little bit from that. Hotel rates have increased by 8%. Car rental prices are remaining stable. And it sounds like cruise vacations are in high demand. I know a few people that are on a cruise or just getting back from a cruise for spring break. So it seems like more and more people are taking cruises. I see a lot of folks posting about them on social media and really getting into the cruise life as they call it. I have a cousin and her daughter and her husband. They are obsessed with Disney. And so they often take Disney cruises. And of course, they've been on a number of them. And these Disney cruises are decked out with, of course, everything, as you can imagine, Disney. And they do not get sick of them. They seem to love them and they could go on them again and again. I get motion sickness. I'm only wanting to be on a boat if I'm fishing, and even then, depends on where I'm at, I can get sick. So I don't know if a cruise would be for me, although they say that it's so big, you don't really feel the movement. But on the other side of things, everybody always gets sick. If one person gets sick on a cruise, everybody gets sick on a cruise, right? so, uh, so yeah, it's kind of one of those things that when you take a cruise, you never know what you're going to get. And during COVID, that was really crazy when people were on cruises and having to be kind of quarantined and not knowing what was going on and parked out in the ocean just waiting to be able to go home. So the more I think about it, I don't know if I'm going to take a cruise for my spring break though. I'm a diehard sports fan. I have my Braves bobblehead, Eddie Rosario. I got to see him crack a couple of grand slams, or at least one, I think. I got my Steelers bear here. I also have my Idaho Steelheads hockey bobblehead too. So my idea of spring break is sports. So I am going to watch two teams that are in the hunt for the playoffs in the NHL. I'm heading to see the LA Kings and the Colorado Avalanche. I'm a big Pittsburgh Penguins fan, and we are not in the hunt for the playoffs. The Caps are leading our division. So I was thinking of wearing my Penguins jersey, but the last time I did that in Colorado, things were not good for me. So I don't know if I should wear my Penguins jersey, although they kind of stink. So I'm like, who really jersey, and the Washington Capitals just don't like the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I'm heading to see the LA Kings and the Colorado Avalanche. Both of them are in the hunt for the playoffs. So it'll be good to see two good teams. So looking forward to that. All right. Looks like we have another guest on. I'm going to try to get Greg on. Greg, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Cool. I have everything, all the buttons pushed right for you. Sir, how are you this morning?
How's it going?
Good, good, good. What's your morning like?
Dark.
Anything exciting?
Not yet.
When you get up early like we do, Greg, it's like, there's nothing, we don't want anything exciting until after 10 a.m. So, Greg, what's
No.
on the gamut today? I see all kinds of great stories on cowboystatedaily.com.
Yeah. The one everybody's reading is about that woman who was stalking those teens from Glen Rock. Yeah, that's a wild story, and I mean, in the lives of a couple of teenagers,
Right.
it's kind of crazy. I mean, and the fact that she got a couple years probation, everybody is, saying that's not enough. Throw the book at her. Um, it's yeah, it's a crazy story.
It really is, and I'm hoping to get Kathy on. I've known her for a little while just in the media world. So I reached out to her, Greg, and I'm hoping she'll get on the morning show tomorrow with me. Um, yeah, I just want to ask her some questions. It's just kind of, I'm still having, like you said, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. I do know, though, Greg, I just read in Idaho. I used to work over there in radio, and they actually have a canine that is trained on internet crimes that adults do to children. And I kind of felt like this fell into that category. And the whole probation thing seems a little light, although I'm not an attorney and I'm not somebody who should ever decide who gets what sentence. But I just thought if Idaho has a canine that is trained, uh,
That's kind of that's weird.
I should be able to find it because I know who I saw it on. But yeah, they have, but I saw it and I thought it was interesting that um that kind of popped up while this story I was actually reading this story.
Yeah, and and we know what Claire read, comprehensive. She did a great job on the story. Um, but and so I don't want to make it a a gender type of thing. But you got to think if it was a 41-year-old man stalking a teenage girl,
Hmm.
I wonder if he would have just got a couple years probation for it.
Probably not. I mean, I think that's safe to assume, although that is an assumption, but I think you've hit the nail on the head, Greg. I agree 100%. I think that it would have been looked at differently. I know by myself as just a consumer of the story, I would have been even more creeped out. I know you don't want to say that,
Yeah.
but if it was a guy to the young gal, even though there was a young boy involved as well, but yeah, yeah, it's just one of those stories. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully getting Kathy on, Greg, so I can find out just a little bit more on how they're healing through this very awkward and weird process.
Yeah, the parents had a lot of patience through this. I don't know that I would be the
Right?
uh yeah, I
Yeah. Well,
it's hard to know whether it's a crazy story and that yeah, my head around how a how how a teenager's life is so how you can get so involved. It's
right?
to the point of like impersonate. It's just crazy. It's just nuts.
Well, you just can't make this stuff up, but I do appreciate Cowboy State Daily, Claire, yourself, chatting with Jen as well. That we, I guess maybe I just didn't notice, but I've known the mother of this child in media for a while and follow her on Instagram. And I just didn't realize her family was going through this. And it's happened for a while now. Now the sentencing has come out. And so I think it's nice too that maybe they didn't get bombarded during the process. And now you're able to kind of tell this story and let people know what really happened.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's a wild story, and a lot of people are reading it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was glued to it. So, anyways, I probably will talk about that all morning. But Greg, let's talk about the wind. Was it windy where you're at? Were yesterday?
Yeah, yeah. It was pretty windy, but not as windy as in some other spots.
Well, 116-mile-per-hour winds on Mount Coffin, and then I weather or wind reader. And so he took a bunch of pictures yesterday. It was so intense at my place, Greg. I thought for sure my roof was going to come off, but we had multiple, like in a row, 75-mile-per-hour gusts and 50 consistently for a while.
Wow, wow. Well, when I was coming back from Afton, I got all the way to Laramie, and then I had to stop, and it was closed from Laramie to Cheyenne. I-80 was, and it was because of the winds. It was over 70 miles an hour, and it was blowing things over, and I had to just sit there
Yeah.
after that long drive through the snow. I just had to sit there in Laramie, so close, but yet so far from home.
Yep. Guess what I was doing yesterday in the 75-mile-per-hour winds?
Flying kites.
No, that would be wild though. I was in a, Tesla Cybertruck doing this cool little TV thing I do with Wind River Internet here locally, and so we took his Cybertruck out for a test ride, and I thought for sure one of the panels was gonna fall off with how crazy the wind was. I'm just sitting there videoing like, "Oh my gosh, don't fall off, don't fall off." And it didn't fall off, so it could withstand. And we had the gust of 75 miles per hour, and it
Wow.
it didn't move the Cybertruck, and it was self-driving. You know when you're on the road and you're trying to keep, I know my Toyota RAV4, I'm like, oh, and then this Cybertruck is just no, you have no hands on it, no nothing, and it's just smooth as a whistle. Impressive,
You must have got had some good glue on it.
right? We joked about it. The guy who owns it had a good sense of humor because he even mentioned, we're lucky a panel didn't fall off here. So, but it
Yeah,
withstood
well, they
the,
just recalled him for that.
yeah, they withstood the wind though with the panel on there.
That's
So,
cool. It seems like depending on like if you're going into the wind, it seems like it'd be pretty aerodynamic.
yeah, we would assume the whole thing is nothing is circular on it. It's all angles of some sort and methodically put together. So, um, Yeah, it was just interesting though. The full self-driving, that's what they call it, the FSD, full self-driving. And with the wind though, I was like, please don't make this thing full self-driving. So you can do like full self-driving and then you can do supervised. And so we did the supervised just so you could take over whenever you wanted to. But it had this mode called hurry mode. And when you pushed it, it was like, whizza! It like took off and then it would keep up with any traffic, how fast they were going, not the actual speed limit.
That's cool.
Yeah, when you get into big cities like Denver and you know everybody's going 90 instead of, the 75 and you don't want to be the one, slowing down traffic, that's what that hurry mode is, I guess.
I do. I totally do.
You go
In
the
fact,
speed
I'll
limit.
have to get into the fast lane and do it just to upset everybody.
You would, Greg. Good. Give them a little bit of run for their money when we visit. We have to slow things down for them because that's the Wyoming way of life. All right, Greg, I was looking at the wind here. I love this story from Andrew on how crazy the wind can get in here. He brings up the 128 mile per hour blast in Clark in 2022. So we're no stranger to wind, Greg. And if you live basically anywhere minus Jackson, I feel you get hit with this type of wind every year.
Yeah, it's a thing. It definitely impacts stuff, but you kind of get used to it. This is the time of year that the wind just really takes off, and yeah, Clark, Mount Coffin, those are a couple of places. There's that spot. I think between Chugwater and Wheatland on I-25 that usually gets really really bad too. So you after a while you kind of get to know the spots.
Right.
Where
Used to have a big Dodge 2500 and it had a soft top on the back. And I always thought I was so safe on I-80. Yeah, you're shaking your head like, uh-oh. I always thought I was so safe. I'm like, oh, I have this huge truck, 2500, four-wheel drive. It's so heavy. And then Highway Patrol in Wyoming said, actually, those types of trucks, even without your crazy topper, your wind catcher on the back, are dangerous. The most dangerous vehicles sometimes on I-80 during the wind. And they said with my little soft top on the back, I was just basically a kite. So I was like,
wow, I was on I-80 last summer, I think. Sometime last year to get photos of something. I can't remember what it was, and I parked on the shoulder and I got off, and as soon as I opened my door, the wind caught it. And it almost ripped the door off. I mean, it ripped it all the way back. It like bent it. I mean, it was nuts.
in Wyoming, I want to know from my insurance agent, do you cover wind door dings? Because sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Like you mentioned, it just takes the door. And when you're in a parking lot, it's the worst. And the person comes out and you've done, you have a big ding right there. And you're like, I didn't mean to. It was the wind, I swear.
Yeah, hurt. I mean, it almost sandblast you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just the wind in Wyoming. I laugh because it's not for the faint of heart, but a lot of times when we talk about folks who visit or maybe potentially want to move here, wind isn't something they really think about as being, difficult or cumbersome in some ways. But for Wyomingites, we deal with it, but we get some crazy wind that things, we couldn't do anything out. Gusts. Didn't want to get hit in the face with a piece of tin.
Yeah, well, there's a scientific reason for it. It's because Nebraska sucks and Utah blows. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
that's unfortunately we get the brunt of that.
Yeah,
So.
really. I mean, and Don Day will show you some of those weather patterns, and so you can see that happening exactly. So, well, hopefully today is not as windy. I know Thursday is going to be extremely warm across the state, Greg. So, you going to bust out the flip flops and the shorts, or?
I pretty much wear shorts all the time.
Oh, okay,
I'm
cool.
I'm pretty much a shorts guy. After my stint in Alaska, I don't get very cold.
You're prepared. Yeah, you've already gone through the real cold. Well, it should be perfect short weather for you then this entire week. This weekend, though, things are going to cool down just a bit. And then Dawn says we are in for kind of a cool start to April.
Gonna get buried.
No, yeah. When does that? Oh, the 31st, right? The stop sign challenge.
Yeah. So just a few more days. It's close. It's right almost up to the bottom of the sign itself.
Are you on the webcam?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
So it's close. Dang it. Yeah, I just don't think they might this weekend, but they might get a little precip on Togedy in the form of
Yeah, but
snow.
I
But
mean, it'd have to be like a couple feet or so.
well, and
So
imagine it'll be warm on Thursday. Some of that snow is going to melt up there.
yeah, exactly.
Now, did people enter that to try to win something or?
Yeah, it's not much. The guy, they get like some business swag, stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Um,
And
but
bragging
mostly
rights.
it's just fun entering it and just kind of watching it throughout the winter
Well,
to see.
the last thing I wanted to ask you, Greg, and if you're just joining us, this is Greg Johnson with Cowboy State Daily, and I'm Shireen filling in for Jake on the Cowboy State Daily morning show. I was curious about this bingo night, the bingo nights in Cody, and they were shut down for illegal gambling. Is bingo considered if it has money involved, or because I know I've been to them for fundraisers and things for a good cause.
It's not whether there's money involved. It's whether or not you have a license, whether you're allowed to do it. So it's considered gambling along with the different skill games and things like that. So, like nonprofits and things that do it as fundraisers, they can have bingo,
Okay.
but others can't. And it's interesting that someone would report them all of the bars in Cody that do a bingo night. And it's not whether or not they do it for money. It's just that because they're not the right type of organization, they can't do it. So it's
Oh, I see it here. I see this.
it's an it's interesting it's a type of thing that I'm kind of surprised that it would be enforced depending on the way you do it. I mean, because it's not spelled out in Wyoming law, so these aren't covered, but it's kind of like you have a trivia night,
Right. Exactly.
prizes or something, nothing big, but that's okay because it's not spelled out in the law, but bingo isn't. So
Well, I would assume maybe a good workaround for this, and I'm sure they're not listening what bar owner is up at this time, but I assume maybe a workaround would be just getting a nonprofit or a 501c3 that actually runs the bingo game, and then a portion of the proceeds gets to go to them.
yeah, and I get yeah. And I don't know if before they were charging people for it or not, or if they were just having it to bring people in and sell drinks and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So who knows? But yeah, it seems kind of, you know, I don't know. There's someone in Cody who hates bingo, and
Yeah.
everybody can thank them for complaining about it.
Like the ones where they get mad at the kids in the lemonade stands, and they come and have to write them a ticket or something. I
I
mean,
know. Well,
that's worse, but
last year we had the Girl Scout in Pinedale got ticketed for some Girl Scout cookies in her own grandma's driveway.
yeah.
$400 ticket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just crazy. I mean, those are way worse because they're with children, but it does seem like this is a little bit petty on the bingo thing. But that's just kind of what I gathered from that. But guess what, Greg?
What?
You might be proud of me. You mentioned Girl Scout cookies. I am a lover of Girl Scout cookies. I'm trying to cut out sugar. I'm getting married next year, so trying to, you know, get all, thin so I can get in my wedding dress. Um, I went by, we had a ton of Girl Scouts outside of one of our stores, and I resisted, even though two mothers gave me the stink eye when I was walking by because I didn't stop and buy any Girl Scout cookies. But I resisted, and I don't think there's a lot of people out there that can resist Girl Scout cookies.
They're pretty good. I haven't had them in years. I don't do sugar at all. So
Oh, good for you.
yeah. But yeah, I mean they see me coming and think, oh, that guy, he's he's an easy target for the cookie. So
And
yeah,
you're
I
like,
said,
no sugar. See, that's what I
yeah, I
said
said
too.
no, no.
No sugar, man. It's so
But
bad.
yeah, so you're not afraid that they're gonna poison.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I see those moms all the time, man. Gotta be careful. So we all know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Girl Scout cookies are yeah, they're kind of a tradition. I th- I don't know, they would do well to do
Well,
if they
it's Girl Scout season. I've seen a lot of them out and about. I think some of them are spending their spring break trying to push some cookies.
that is true. Although that's kind of a stereotype, isn't it? The girls baking and selling cookies, but it's a huge deal.
It is a
Huge business
huge
for 'em.
deal. It's a huge business and it's a huge fundraiser for them. And the fact that you can't get those cookies really anywhere else, and somehow they've managed. Although I have seen them in some like online stores, but I assume some of the proceeds go back to the Girl Scouts. But yeah, what a business model, Greg.
Yeah, I think they all do. And I don't know, I think there's some people who they buy cases of them from
Hmm.
the Girl Scouts.
Oh yeah.
And then they wait and like 6 or 7 months down the line when, it's the middle and everybody's eating their cookies and you can't buy them for another 6 months. You go out on Amazon and they scalp them for big money.
They have a freezer full.
Freezer full of
Yeah.
cookies.
I need to make some extra money, so I'm gonna just stock up on Girl Scout cookies and wait until they're not around. That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad my nieces are no longer Girl Scouts because you're always obligated to buy a bunch of cookies, and you
yeah,
had to buy the same amount from each of them. And
seems like my the kids in my life do those butter braids, and I'm also not like super into a bunch of bread and butter. Great for you, but like butter, either butter braids or some sort of roll that they're selling, but bread. It's always bread. So I think I'd rather take the cookies. All right, Greg. Well, that does it for us this morning. It's been fantastic having you on. You're always a fun guy to chat with. I'm glad I've been able to get to know you a little bit more, and we'll talk again tomorrow.
all right,
See
well,
ya.
thanks a lot. Have a good one.
You too. What he's jiving with in the morning, but he's got a great sense of humor, and I like getting to know all the Cowboy State Daily folks just a little bit more. Some folks are just tuning in to the morning show for the first time. I'm filling in for Jake. I'm Shireen Herrera, but for those of you that are like me and kind of getting to know some of the reporters and the crew a little bit more, I think some of the introductions and fun questions is a good way to do so. So thanks for listening to the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. We'll be back in a moment.
Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Core, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, energy issues in the Powder River Basin, or grizzlies in Yellowstone, our talented crew of experienced journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in DuBois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean to our everyday lives? Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily Video Newscast every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com. This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Gracie and Pedro might not get along so well,
You're standing on my tail.
but there's one thing they agree on. There's a right seat for everyone.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Whether you're a dog,
Hold on, Pooch.
a cat, a fish, or a rat.
And I'm a ferret.
Be sure to travel safe.
How can you be so sure? I'm absolutely positive.
On your next adventure, make sure your children are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Well, good morning. Back in action. Cowboy State Daily morning show on Tuesday, March 25th. Glad to be here. I'm Shireen Herrera filling in for Jake. I'm excited about today's show. I'm excited to chat. Remember, if you want to talk about something, if you want to reach out, just send a message to Cowboy State Daily. If you know me personally on socials, you can also do that as well. And send me anything you want to hear on Cowboy State Daily. You want to get something on, you want to talk about something, there you go. There you be. Easy way to do so. CowboyStateDaily.com. That is a great place to make sure you're checking TV to watch your news. Cowboy State Daily has a fantastic YouTube channel as well, where they have long news, weather, past morning shows, so that you're in the know when it comes to what's happening with Cowboy State Daily and all of the stories, the morning show activities, anything. In most parts of Wyoming, I think everybody this week is pretty warm. On Thursday, that'll be your best day for that tea time or the outdoor activities for spring cleaning. I know I have a lot of stuff. We had so much wind yesterday. We had 75-mile-per-hour gusts, multiple, or Cheyenne. I'm in central Wyoming, and I thought, if the wind can do anything, can it just blow dog poop away? Can it just blow it out of my yard? Because somehow I have 80 acres, and both of our dogs decide that they have to go to the bathroom close to the house. I have no idea why, but I thought, if the wind could do anything to help Wyomingites out, it's just blowing dog poop away. Just disappear. Just blow it on, and hopefully not to the neighbors, but our neighbors are not very close. But it was extremely windy. We had over 100-mile-per-hour gusts in Wyoming. I said 75-mile-per-hour in central Wyoming, multiple gusts, and then consistently on the side of 50-mile-per-hour gusts. So just a windy, windy day. All right, let's do a check-in with our rodeo report.
It's the Rodeo Roadshow on the Western Ag Network. Hi, everybody. I'm Will Rasmussen. Rodeo Houston is over now, ended over the weekend. And wow, was there a lot of money picked up by some great cowboys. The winner of each event, they picked up over $70,000. We'll talk about the winners at Rodeo Houston from the Lone Star State. Coming up next on the Roadshow.
Cattlemen, this is Cameron Deno coming to you from Gardner-Deno Angus Ranch, better known as GDAR. The prefix with nearly 7 decades, raising heavy-muscled, problem-free bulls with the right genetic package to improve your bottom line. On March 27th, 265 Angus bulls and 250 commercial heifers sold right here at the ranch, Sidney, Montana. 100% guaranteed, plus free delivery. Learn more at gdar-angus.com.
Sale season's here again, and there are a lot of black-hided Angus bulls on the market, but not all of them are registered. Why take the risk? Don't gamble on unproven genetics. Invest wisely with registered, powered by Angus bulls. Your buying decisions. Don't buy an impossible.
Rodeo Houston is got over the weekend, and boy, a lot of people won a lot of money, including the winners. We talked about pocketing over $70,000 to win that great show. In the bareback riding, Rocker Steiner wins the bareback riding. Tucker Allen from California, the national finalist just once. He's going to go back again after his steer wrestling win in Houston. The Arizona team of Derek Begay and Coulter Todd are the team roping champions. Ryder Wright, the world champion saddle bronc rider from the famous Wright family, wins the saddle bronc riding, only 22 years old. In the breakaway roping, Taylor Munsell from Alva, Oklahoma, she wins the breakaway roping event. There is Cassie Mowry from Texas. Boy, she has been a mainstay for the last half dozen years at the National Finals Rodeo, goes to number 1 in the world in the barrel race. And Tristan Hutchings from Idaho, the bull riding champion at Rodeo Houston. We're going to check those world standings here in the next day or two on the Rodeo Roadshow. I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network.
Good morning, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen Herrera, also known as Shireen the Adventure Queen, filling in for Jake on this fine Tuesday. It's a beautiful start. I don't see the sunrise quite yet out my window, but that's one of my favorite things about mornings in Wyoming. I take a lot of sunrise and sunset pics. But I live right outside the Wind River Mountains, and so just beautiful backdrop. You can see the mountains from our property, and I get a fresh morning air. Getting your coffee. My cup for the day is my fly fishing cup. Got a bunch of flies on it. So every morning I'll have a cool cup because I have an endless supply of cool cups and I never get to show them off because normally I'm just on radio in the morning and now on TV and radio, filling in for Jake on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show and looking forward to some great guests. I have a few folks that are joining this week that are just characters. I'm hoping to get Kathy Holman on, who her family has stalked and impersonated by a 40-year-old woman. You probably are like many people and a little shocked by it, but I'm hoping to get Kathy on. I've known her in the media and radio world for a little while now, and so reached out to her. She sounds like she'll hopefully get on with us this week at some point. I just want to ask him a few questions. I don't want to rehash everything for her as her family has been through something so awkward, hard. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. What I do want to ask Kathy is how her family is healing, how they're moving forward, and how she's kind of using this as, you know, as her way to be able to get stronger laws on these crimes. And so, if there is anything good that has come from this very terrible, bizarre story, it's that we might actually have some tougher laws if this ever happens again, thanks to the folks that are advocating for that. So I'm hoping to get Kathy on. I'll reach back out to her here momentarily and see when we can link up and get her on the morning show here. That's one of the most popular stories, cowboystatedaily.com, but they have a number of them. Another one that is very popular is about Trump Force One. Yeah, that's right. Trump's airplane being parked at the Cheyenne airport and a magnet for photos and selfies. So you may see some pictures online and you can't miss the plane. It says Trump in huge letters. It has a big American flag on the back. And so it's a 757 jet and it's parked at the Cheyenne Regional Airport. So that's another fun story with cowboystatedaily.com. It's also on Facebook. People are loving it and commenting about it and saying that they're taking selfies and posting their photos. And so it's just a big plane. So whether or not I guess you agree with the president, it's a sight to be seen. This plane is absolutely massive and you just can't miss it with the huge Trump. And I love the photo Cowboy State Daily has. The gentleman's in the back of his truck getting a picture at a better angle because it was that important to him. So he'll cherish that and enjoy it. And I like seeing people getting out and about and being active one way or another, or just having a good time on something. So Trump Force One is sitting here in Wyoming, just hanging out for a few days. And who knows how long it'll actually be here. But of course, Cowboy State Daily will keep us in the know on this Tuesday morning and continued on this week. If that airplane moves, you guarantee they're going to know about it. And if it ever is back here in Wyoming, they're the first people usually. Media, easy like on Facebook, easy follow on Instagram. Of course, we were talking to Cassie yesterday, X, formerly Twitter. Great place, too, for a lot of news and information. And Cowboy State Daily stays active as well on that platform. So if you're on socials, give them a follow so that you're in the know, too. It's just good to stay up on what's happening in the world of Wyoming. They also give us some great stories from Utah, Montana, and Idaho. And so I love keeping our pulse kind of on, and Colorado, on some of our neighbors. And I forgot Nebraska and some other neighbors, but I don't see as many stories about Nebraska with Cowboy State Daily, but they definitely do stories on Nebraska. But Idaho, Montana, Utah, Colorado. That's super important for Wyomingites and folks that live here in this state to be following what's going on in some of our neighboring states. So cowboystatedaily.com is the place to check out. I'm Shireen Herrera filling in for Jake. Glad to be here on this beautiful Tuesday morning across Wyoming. Looking forward to beautiful to expect this week and for the first part of April. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake with the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, March 25th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Corr. A string of attacks on Tesla vehicles, chargers, and dealerships nationwide has some Wyoming Tesla owners bristling. People outraged at Elon Musk's agenda to terminate some government employees and cut spending in other ways, or his affiliation with Trump, have taken Molotov cocktails and other destructive devices to Tesla products and properties this year. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland spoke to several Wyoming residents who own the electric vehicles.
I talked to two, one who does not like Elon Musk and one who's like, yeah, no, he's just trying to cut waste. He's trying to improve things. And so it was really interesting to me to hear them both say, what the heck is going on? Like, I thought you could own property in this country, despite them both having different feelings towards the CEO of a company that...
Wyoming on Saturday when an unknown suspect or suspects spray painted swastikas on 4 Tesla chargers in Rock Springs. No one had been caught as of Monday, as the area surveillance video coverage was not ideal. A lawsuit filed against the campaign arm of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus is being allowed to continue in court. On Friday, 3rd Judicial District Court Judge Richard Lavery rejected a request from the Freedom Caucus to dismiss a lawsuit filed against it for defamation. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that the lawsuit was filed by 2 state legislators over what they said were misleading political propaganda the Freedom Caucus Political Action Committee put out against them last year.
This lawsuit was filed over mailers and text messages accusing Representatives J.T. Larson and Cody Wiley, 2 Republicans from Rock Springs, of voting to keep Trump's name off the ballot in the 2024 election. Wiley and Larson really felt like their names were defamed in these mailers and text messages.
The case will now move into the discovery phase, which can involve the required release of communications and other documents pertaining to a case. An executive order by President Donald Trump has rare earth mining companies in Wyoming pitching to investors as mining and refining projects in the state move forward. A recent marketing video for American Rare Earths Limited, which is developing the Halleck Creek Rare Earth Project near Wheatland, referenced the importance the president is giving the topic. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that Wyoming is positioned to move into a marketplace that appears poised to expand given Trump's push to accelerate production.
Wyoming is particularly well poised to take advantage of that emphasis on activity on federal lands, and really anywhere you can find concentrations of these metals and elements that have science fiction-like names and are found in everything in modern life, from your cell phones to a fighter jet to your computer.
The executive director of the Wyoming Mining Association told Cowboy State Daily that those in the field are pleased to see the Trump administration embrace the priorities of the mining industry. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and
local bars to inform them that their popular bingo night promotions were a no-go. Cowboy State Daily's Andrea Rossi spoke to the owner of Cody Craft Brewing, one of the 3 establishments to get the call. He was told that the bingo games have been going on for several years, but no one knows why someone decided to tip off the Gaming Commission now.
According to Wyoming statute, you can only have bingo games if you're a 501c3 nonprofit that's doing it for charitable purposes. So there's a bunch of places in Cody that have been doing bingo, and at least one of them was wasn't offering any kind of cash prizes. But then one person made an anonymous complaint to the Wyoming Gaming Commission and reported all three of these businesses and called them out for having illegal gambling.
The complaint against Cody Craft Brewing, Brew Guards, and the Silver Dollar was submitted anonymously online. The owner of Cody Craft Brewing has submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to see if the complainant's identity can be divulged. He said he's not looking for retribution, just understanding. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
I'll never forget the day I nearly died. I was a young journalist with a great career, starting a family. The only way we found out I had any kind of heart issue was when I went into sudden death. My coworkers sprung into action. They've recently been trained in life-saving CPR protocols developed by the American Heart Association. They're the ones that kept me alive until the medics came. They did many tests on me in the hospital after my cardiac arrest and created a treatment plan, all with research from the American Heart Association. I think unless you are a heart disease patient, you may not know how much work the American Heart Association does behind the scenes to save your life. Since my cardiac arrest, I've had 2 more children. I've watched all 3 of my children grow into adulthood. I'm gonna cry now. Graduate from college. My daughter got married. I have grandchildren, and I'm still here.
Learn more about the American Heart Association's work at helpheart.org.
All right, back Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake. Glad of the month and move into April. A week from today is April Fool's Day. Some folks are like, don't say anything, don't say anything. I'm trying to prank people. I am the person that needs to be reminded because I can be ultra gullible. And by that, it means that I'm the prime pickings for April Fool's pranks. So we've done some cool April Fool's pranks in radio. Of course, back in the day, when I first started in radio 17 years ago, you could really pull the wool over people's eyes. You just can't do that as much anymore. It's much harder to actually pull off a really good April Fool's joke. But if you're thinking about it and you do, please let me know so that I can talk about the fact that you're doing an April Fool's joke. And if it was successful, maybe I can talk about it the day after. But good morning. Beautiful day ahead and most everywhere in Wyoming, as a matter of fact, this entire week. I can't wait to get Don Day back on just to see what he thinks anything has changed as far as the forecast. But it is going to be a little chilly and a little dicey through the weekend. I talked to Don yesterday. I have to make a trip back from Denver, and I thought, do I take I-80 because I can take 25 or I-80 to get home? Don's like, no. Don't take I-80. I don't want to be stuck on that when they get some rain. And then, of course, Arlington, Elk Mountain, getting that snow when other areas are getting rain. So it looks like that kind of precip and potential is moving in this weekend. So I'll have to ask Dawn if that's changing at all. I think on the way down, though, I leave on Thursday. It's supposed to be 80 in Denver and 75 or a little bit cooler where I'm at, low 70s. And so a great day for a drive. I feel like that day would, be safe for me to be able to take I-80. But like Dawn said, through the weekend and especially on Sunday, might be a good idea to take 25 back home. And if anything, I listen to Mr. Don Day. Glad to be here filling in for Jake on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show, cowboystatedaily.com. I think the 2 most popular stories this morning with Cowboy State Daily is the story on Trump Force One, of course, parked at the Cheyenne Airport because there have been so many photos. And then also the story about the young gal and her family who at a Glen Rock have finally been able to relax a little bit after a year plus of chaos and impersonation and stalking of this young gal and even her boyfriend. They're now able to have a little bit of relief. So those are the most popular stories on cowboystatedaily.com. And of course, you can find on Facebook, you can see the one story I just referred to. I think they have about 400 comments on the comment thread there. So obviously, folks feeling passionate about it, wanting to chime in, and you can always do so. I feel like in this day and age, obviously, commenting in social media is such a regular part of our lives, but a lot of times people do comment on social media and they don't really think about the repercussions from it because it's so easy to just type on a keyboard. You don't have to see the person face to face. But I always urge folks to make sure that you're kind and respectful when you are commenting on stuff, but please be active and comment and let your voice be heard. That is one of the great things of social media and being able to do that. So you can see a lot of that Cowboy State Daily on Facebook. I love reading back on some of the comments depending on the story. You know what I'm talking about. You can get some crazy commenters and some folks that have some different thoughts, but that's what makes America great and makes it go round. So again, if you're, inclined to want to comment or be active, and it helps out too with some of the Cowboy State Daily reporters and journalists and columnists if you are encouraging. If you're not, maybe it doesn't help. But if you're commenting and even if you're asking questions, you're invested into their writing. And I think they really appreciate that. And they put in so much hard work. Just being involved with the Cowboy State Daily crew briefly here, it's impressive to see how well they work together and how fluid the operation actually is. And so the more you comment and be active and the more you let them know, yay, nay, this is what I want to see, this is what I want to read about, they listen and they'll tailor stuff to you. And so reach out and be active. I think that'll be the theme mostly you'll hear. I have some folks that are joining from the hunt, don't care, be active. Don't fish, I don't care. Be active. You don't want to take wildlife photography? Cool. I don't care. Be active on whatever you think or feel you can give it. And however you think or feel, being active is such a key part of that. And we talk a lot about that in politics. I do not get into politics. You won't find me really talking politics because things get just too crazy. But you will hear me talk about conservation and being active. And it does go hand in hand. And so there's obviously a lot of connection and so much that's important for us to be able to stay in the know on with politics, with conservation, with our great state of Wyoming. It all works together and it's all connected. So thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for giving me the encouragement too. It's tough filling in for Jake to be doing this morning show. So I hope you realize how lucky you are to have Jake every morning and not so lucky to have me filling in for him for the rest of this week and then next week as well. And then I might be on from time to time. You might find me popping in. Who knows? So the one thing I did learn, though, is talking for 4 hours straight, a little tough on the pipes. A little tough that I'm just not used to talking for 4 straight hours, which is extremely impressive and very well done by Jake and not so well done by me. But I appreciate your encouragement. And this thing will be a work in progress. I'll add more elements. Serious. So that's kind of what sets Jake and I apart. I'm a little bit more goofy and you won't find me getting too serious on too many stories or topics. It's probably because half the time I don't know what I'm talking about. So I have to kind of defer to the journalists and the reporters anyways. But just glad to be here. Appreciate you being a part of the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake.
From Yellowstone to Devil's Tower, the Bighorn Mountains to the Teton Range, Cheyenne to Sheridan, Rawlins to Ralston, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show covers the state like no other radio show or podcast. We love Lovell. We're eager to share the stories of Story, Will Crow About Crowheart, and Yodel Over Yoder. Whether you make your home in Sweetwater, Chugwater, Powder River, or Green River, the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show will make you feel right at home. Jeffrey City, Atlantic City, we see you. Little America, Big Piney, you're on our radar. How Howdy, Wapiti, Meeteetse, Shoshone, Ten Sleep. Good morning. Welcome, Torrington, River, Laramie, Fort Washington, Panda, Hudson, Hewlett, Dayton, Daniel, and DuBois. We are east of Weston, west of Midwest, north of Newcastle, and south of Sundance. Border to border, we love Wyoming and every one of its communities, bar none.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
When you hear the words nonprofit organization, what comes to mind? Is it a place your dog called home before finding you? Is it an organization that supports accessibility? Is it a place that ensures your safety and that of those you love? That protects endangered wildlife and habitats or fights for our most basic needs? It's impossible to show all the ways nonprofit organizations make a difference in our world. One animal, one person, one cause at a time. But it's not impossible to be part of it. When you give what you have to a nonprofit organization that needs what you can give, you help promote, protect, and strengthen the reach of these incredible organizations. The Nonprofit Alliance is here, helping connect people like you to the nonprofits that enrich your life, your community, and the world we share. Reach out to a nonprofit organization that inspires you today to find how you can help.
All right, glad to be back. Good morning, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake. It's a beautiful last week of March here in Wyoming. I'm loving it. Folks are enjoying spring break, which you just cannot beat, being able to have some weather like this. Some folks too. I kind of chuckle when they leave Wyoming to go to somewhere warm for spring break, and then we're 75 on Saturday or on Thursday. So for me, I always like to leave our area when it's a little bit more cold here, which in Wyoming, you never know what you're going to get on the side of weather at the end of March. And so for me, this is pretty mild. And we've had a lot worse when it comes to this time of year in Wyoming. We definitely could have a lot more adverse conditions. So 75 on Thursday will be nice. I think most places in the state will be in the 70s, but I'll ask Don Day when we get a chance to chat with him. I'm excited too. We have an author that's coming on the show. We have more folks with Cowboy State Daily. And what's so cool about the reporters and the folks that join me is we don't necessarily just talk about the stories and what they're writing with Cowboy State Daily, although we do that. But I also like some folks that are just tuning in, just getting to know some of the reporters and the folks with Cowboy State Daily. So I thought it'd be a good idea or a good time to kind of allow them to reintroduce themselves. They've all been frequent guests on the morning show with Jake. And so I'm allowing them to kind of reintroduce themselves, find out what they do in their spare time, what they like, what hobbies they have, because they're real humans. They work extremely hard. And I kind of like finding out these quirky, cool things about all the Cowboy State Daily reporters and the staff and things like that. So I hope you're appreciating that like I am. And so every time we get a guest on, we'll kind of find out a little bit about them. Although, remember, the reporters are all frequent guests on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. And so Greg kind of was able to go into his background on Monday. We didn't do as much today, but we still just have a ton of fun and a little bit more unorthodox, I should say, for me personally, because that's their life all about. And it's already been really fun learning about all of that and more. So, yes, let's have Don Day join us here. Don, how are you?
Well, I am good. How are you doing?
Doing peachy keen.
I think there are a lot of people are going to be tempted to play hooky. I know I am.
Do you ever sleep? You're up like
No.
way late and then up early on the morning show.
Yeah, well, us radio broadcaster people.
Yep.
Uh, sleeping in for us is 5 in the morning.
Yep, exactly. Dawn, how warm will most of Wyoming be on Thursday? Will everybody be in the 70s?
Going to get some areas that are going to probably just stay in the 60s. Of course, that's all going to be elevation. But you get out on those eastern plains, the east side of the mountains, you're going to see a lot of 70s. I think the usual warm places like Wheatland and Torrington and places at around 5,000 feet or so are going to be the warmest. But even if you're not going to make 70, so take advantage of the next 3 days if you can.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I know you mentioned April might be a little wet as we start off the month.
Let's hope so. What I like about the forecast is that we're going to have 3 days where it's just going to be spectacular. And it's really looking more and more likely that most of Wyoming's got a decent chance of picking up some moisture this weekend. It's going to be in the form of rains, have some thunder. And the eastern counties of the state, the Platte, Goshen County, Niobrara County, Converse County areas are super dry. They have not been able to get this March moisture that's in other parts of the state. Those locations have a really good chance of some rain and snow this weekend, but really everywhere. I think just about everyone's going to pick up some spring moisture, and that should be followed by some more chances next week. So I like this forecast because it's got everything. It's got some really nice weather. Then it has some moisture. Now, some people may complain that this weather is coming in over the weekend. I get it. But we can't do much, Shirley. In terms of scheduling the weather, that's above my pay grade. Can't do that.
No, you can't. Let's talk about the wind, though. Cowboy State Daily had that 116 mile per hour gust. And then Dave Lipson, our buddy here in central Wyoming, he had his weather stick out, his wind reader, and he sent me, we had 2 gusts of 75 miles per hour and then consistent 50 miles here in central Wyoming.
Oh, yeah. And the weather pattern this past weekend, and really going back to late last week, was the perfect setup for a high wind event. The time of year, March, if you look at just statistics, March is the windiest on average. And part of the reason for that is that the jet stream, as we change seasons, can be right on. Winds are right on top of Wyoming, and some of that energy is brought down to the surface, and we get those really big wind gusts. But the good news is the jet stream is, at least temporarily, making a return up to the north, up into Canada. And that's why we're going to have much lighter winds here over the next few days.
That's good. I always like when there's less wind in Wyoming, but we're used to it.
Yeah, nobody asked for more wind. And if they do, they're politely asked to leave.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, don't even say the W word if we can help it. But
Right.
Dawn, what else are you up to? What are you doing in your regular life besides working all the time?
Well, this is the time of year where, I get really antsy to want to be outside more. Whether it's, going up to the mountains. This is the time of year too. Is like, I like to garden, so it's starting to put those little pots in the windowsill, try to get those tomatoes started.
Yep.
I myself am guilty of doing things earlier than we're supposed to do.
Yes.
Because we all know we get weather like this. And what's your first urge? Like, I want to put plants on the front porch. I want to go get some petunias, because some of those big box stores start selling plants very early around here.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have to refrain from trying to get too far ahead of myself.
Yeah, you're the person I talked about yesterday that always tricks me into thinking that I should put stuff in the ground at the first part of May, and then everything's frozen and killed off.
I know. Then I remind myself, you know what? I did plant a lot of tulip bulbs last fall. They're starting to come up. Depending on where you are, I'm sure there's some daffodils and tulips starting to poke through the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's your spring color. Let that be your spring color, because I know a lot of people. You go out and you spend a lot of money on plants too early,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're right back at the same store a couple of weeks later buying them again.
This gal. Right
There
here.
you go.
Well, Dawn, I had no idea you were such a gardening guru, but I'm going to ask you some gardening questions from time to time, potentially. But it's been great
Sure.
having you on the show, as always, and we'll chat again tomorrow. All right, it's always great having Don Day on. He is the coolest weather guy, the most famous weather guy, not only in Wyoming, but I would say also in Colorado, Utah. Where else have I heard his forecast before? So he is our weather guy for Wyoming, but a lot of folks utilize his talents. So it's just good to have him on. And of course, you can follow his podcast, look for Don Day, and be able to find that and consume that and enjoy all of his weather and fun stuff. So let's get our next guest on, which is Mr. John Beggs here. One second. There you are. John, you there?
I'm here.
Mr. Beggs, how are you?
I'm good. I was just listening to you and Don.
Awesome. Isn't Don fun?
Oh, I know. And again, another one of those guys with too handsome a face to be in radio. Had no idea. I knew Don for many, many years. I'm going to put my headphones on.
No worries. Thanks, John. Yeah, Don is such a great
right.
guy.
Can
Did
you
you
hear me
know?
okay?
Yeah, did you know Don from radio in Wyoming?
Yeah, I'm going to get the volume up here so I can hear you better. Give me 1 second. All right.
All right.
Much better. Yeah, I
Okay.
just finished watching you and Don, and he kind of bummed me out a little bit about the forecast. So I went ahead and looked at what is it, Friday through the weekend with a little snow coming.
Yep.
Oh well.
Well, John, it's great having you on the morning show with me. As you know, I'm filling in for Jake, but you're also will be filling in for Jake on Friday morning and doing a new Saturday show with Cowboy State Daily. But Mr. Beggs, you are no stranger to being in media and radio.
No, I'm actually just about a year and a half out of it, and now getting back into it. I guess is it Godfather 3? They keep pulling me back in. Is that the one?
Yeah, there you go. You'll never
No.
leave.
Yeah, so I ended a show. I was doing a midday show here at the old Peak 98.3 here in Sheridan. It was rock and roll. I did do an hour of talk in that noon hour, but nothing close to the 4 hours that.
Lord help us.
Yeah, I got to warm it up. My voice is out of shape. I did my first show Saturday here on Cowboy State Daily. And by the end of the third hour, going into that fourth hour, froggy.
Yeah,
And
me too.
not easy.
Yeah, it's not, but it's impressive nonetheless. And you have a phenomenal voice. And so it just has to keep going for 4 hours. That's it.
Hey, you've got that, that smooth jazz. If you were in another format, you could do that
Yeah, smooth.
overnight smooth jazz
Right.
Female voice.
Yeah, cool 105.
Yeah, you got it.
I love it.
Gotcha. But
John-
yeah, I'm going to be doing Jake's show Friday. I guess you got something going on in your world. You can't be there.
Yeah, I have a doctor's thing in Denver and then also going to a hockey game. One of my best friends from Montana, I haven't seen in 4 years, will be down. So I'm going to see the LA Kings and the Avs, and they're both in the hunt for the
Awesome.
playoffs. So it should be a doozy of a
fan.
game.
I'm a big Avs fan.
Awesome. Yeah, you lived, John Beggs, he did radio in Colorado. You were in the Denver area, correct?
Sure, you bet. For 32 years,
Wow.
Deb and I lived in Denver. I left here, Sheridan, Wyoming. I started at KROE, believe it or not, here in Sheridan in 1981. This is where you chime in and say, "No way you're that old."
No way you're that old. You look like you're 20.
Thanks. But yeah, I am 42 years in this business. And what was interesting was that I got to Denver. My first radio name in Denver, believe it or not, was Sonny Melendrez.
Where did that come from, John Beggs?
Yeah. Well, my real name is Baggett. My dad is John Baggett. So I've been John Baggs or Bags on the radio for decades. Originally, it started because my dad and I have the same name, and he was the principal here in Bighorn High School here in the Sheridan area. So I just felt like it was doing him no good for people to think that he was doing a rock and roll radio show. So I started using Bags. But before I did that, I got to Denver from KFBC Q98 in Cheyenne, which is where my relationship with Jimmy Orr started. That's a great story, by the way, and I do have pictures.
And you
And
guys
I
are gonna be
yeah,
doing a little reminiscing, right?
yeah, I have him on the show on Saturday, I think,
Awesome.
if I can drag him out of bed.
Well,
And see, him and I have this funny relationship. He went on to very legitimate things when he left Cheyenne Radio. I went on to even worse, goofy FM rock and roll radio stuff
yeah.
in Denver.
That's the fun stuff though, man. I love that stuff. That's what
I'm
I'm all
still
about.
redeeming myself.
Yeah, well, we both are, my friend. We both are. When I talk about Jake doing a 4-hour radio and TV show, and I'm sitting here still goofing off, playing morning games and sounders, and I'm definitely like I'm highly unprofessional compared.
Well, I get the opportunity to still dabble in this. It's in your blood.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you because you're a lot younger than me, but it just kind of and when you're away from it for like a year and a half, as I have been. When Jimmy approached me on it, I just jumped on it because I was missing it. I was just missing the daily, being involved in it because I am a news junkie and I'm always following what's going on and events and so forth. And I talk a lot anyway, so
That's good.
I might as well do a talk radio show.
John, what do you like to do in your spare time? Let's find out more about John Beggs, who you'll see Saturday mornings from here on out, and you'll see on Friday as well.
Well, I actually have a real job. I'm a real estate agent with Century 21 up here in Sheridan. I got licensed about a year ago, so I'm still kind of fresh, but man, I've learned a lot in a year, and I really enjoy the freedom. As you know, in this business, we're stuck in a studio and or an office properties. I'm on ranches and cabins up in the mountains and so forth. And so I do have a real job. That's where I'll go here this morning. And then I hunting, fishing, hiking. We have horses. We have a cabin up in the mountain. In fact, that cabin is what convinced my much less country who's originally from the Cincinnati, Dayton, Ohio area.
Okay.
I met her in Laramie, but I got the cabin first before we moved here back to Sheridan for me and her smallest town experience. Although I do remind her that Laramie ain't no, thriving metropolis either relative to some other places, but
Right.
she's really adjusted. She loves horses and she loves to hike. Our adventures pretty much every week involve some kind of hike or getting out in the woods in some way, shape, or form. But I fly fish. I think I heard you mention that the other day.
Yeah. Yes, I
That's
do.
something you do?
Yes.
Well,
Was an avid fly fisher. John, maybe you can get me out more, but I have a farm, and let me just tell you, I have 80 acres. I have pigs, I have sheep that come, and then cattle as well. And it is nonstop. So that having horses and other animals. So I haven't had as much time to fly fish, but I feel like I need to find myself again because it's just such a big part of my life. And people are shocked that I would spend every other day. I would be on phone calls on the water for meetings and be fly fishing. And that's just how I used to roll, but not anymore. I don't know what it is, if I'm getting older or what.
you nailed it with that the serenity. I tried to explain that it's actually therapy for me is to finally to have some quiet in my life.
Yep.
And that's what fly fishing is for me. And usually I'm by myself. My sons fly fish. It's not something that Deb does. So normally and usually I'm by myself. It's very quiet and out there for hours and hours. So it's very therapeutic is
Hmm.
how I refer to it.
If you can find the therapy anymore, some of the waters are getting a little bit more busy. Of course, Wyoming is trying to do what they can to protect that, which I'm 100% on board for.
Amen.
Yeah, so it's harder to find that serenity for me a little bit, but also just harder to find the time.
Yeah. Well, that's always the case. I'm getting little bit older, and by design, I'm slowing things down a little bit. But I do here at Sheridan area. In fact, here's an invitation for you. Some beautiful places that I promise you we won't see anybody else.
Ooh.
You get up here, we'll sneak out and get out on one of these creeks in the vicinity.
All
So
right, I'm going to take you up on that. It's
Yeah,
live. It's
you'll love it. I
recorded.
promise you.
It's on YouTube right now, John.
It's recorded. Yeah, no, I'm on. I absolutely would love it. And I think I don't know how much time you spent in the Bighorn Mountains.
A little bit,
It
yeah.
is, I'm biased, but I think it's one of the best kept secrets in all of the Rocky Mountain West.
I agree, and we won't mention exactly a couple locations, but I think I know a couple you might have gone to. But I haven't been able
Betcha.
to. I haven't been able to fly fish up there as much as I want. But let me just say, the drives up there in the summertime, coming back from Billings or going up around Story, and just
Yep,
beautiful.
you bet. No, that's where we spend a lot of our time is up there. But that's pretty much we're, we live in town, but I like to say that our cabin is not home. It's don't think shack when you think our cabin. So it's very comfortable. And as soon as we can get up there on the wheeled vehicles, now we do go up in the winter with tracks on a side by side,
Okay.
which is beautiful and a lot more likely to see wildlife. The elk like to bed down in the valley where our cabin is. But they don't open red grade until April 1st. So we're waiting for that so we can go up and open the cabin. That's our next project. It's coming.
Yes.
Of course, if Don keeps giving us snow.
Right. You might not be wanting to go this weekend.
Exactly.
What is one of your favorite eateries in the Sheridan area?
Oh, for sure. I like going out there's a steakhouse out in Bighorn. I like going there. It's called Ledoux's, somewhat associated with the Chris Ledoux family. I like doing that. I like in town here, there's really, they're the best pizza. They call it Horn Mercantile, and we love doing that because it is on the way to the mountains. And in fact, sometimes we'll call in a pizza and pick it up and, and take it with us as we go up red grade to the cabin. So those are little places we like going to the Powder River restaurant
Sure.
and the Pony. So yeah, we mix it up.
Well, John, what are some things that you will be discussing on your Cowboy State Daily morning show on Saturdays? What are some of your desires for
Well,
that?
thanks for asking because it'll be a little bit in contrast because I've been listening and watching you today, and of course Jake, so I could learn the ropes a little bit, which is much more news oriented during the week. By design, my show it will have the news. There will be things that are the headline stories that we're definitely going to be covering, but I want to lighten it up a little bit, Shireen.
I like it.
It's Saturday for crying out loud, and there's been probably plenty of consternation over the news and politics and everything else. So it is my goal to lighten it up a little bit and focus on sports and events and maybe concerts. Who's in town? Who's playing Frontier Days?
Cool.
What tickets are going on sale? What teams are playing good ball in high school and so forth? So yeah, it'll be a little bit lighter than probably what my show will be on Friday as I substitute host for Jake as you're doing. So I'm curious about you and once Jake gets back, have you thought about doing a show on a regular basis? What's your thought on that?
I'm always up for it. I work for a company here where I live, County 10, and then I also have my own radio show. And then I also own my own company, John. It's a media podcasting company, and that is going very well.
Good.
I consult and edit, produce, and host a couple podcasts for people and get paid to do so. So that's great. It's an anomaly in the podcasting world. It's a little bit more tough to make money if you don't do it right, but that's
Right.
why people hire me. I would definitely be up for doing something. Maybe you and I, John and Shireen in the morning.
Yeah, you bet. I
Uh,
need a co-host. I need somebody to kind of soften the blow a little bit.
it's
You know
so
what I'm
nice
saying?
having you on. It's true though. And so, yeah, I mean, if I don't know if Cowboy State Daily will have me back, but maybe. I'm
Yeah,
hoping if
no,
everything goes right.
I think there's a lot of pleased people out there right now. But
Good.
yeah, well, cool. Would you do me a favor and email me a link to your podcast so I
Yeah.
can do some research.
Yeah,
on
you're
what
so
you're up
awesome,
to.
John. Thank you for being so supportive. But I host one for the company I work for, and then I host another for the Wind River Visitors Council, John. And that one is so cool because we actually have a device that needs no power, no electricity. I have it right here. It's just this little box, and it has all the recording stuff in it, and you don't need any power. You don't need any cords. You don't need any microphones. It's the coolest thing. And so I took it in a cave. I did a cave podcast in Sinks Canyon, touring under the caves with this device. I just went dog sledding and did a podcast there. I've had it on Jackie Dorothy and I, the lady that I'll have on next. Her and I did a podcast through the old Yellowstone Highway. No phone service, nothing for the 100th centennial with that device. And so I'm really about doing these quirky, cool podcasts that you wouldn't normally have the ability to do without having a device
Very
like that.
cool.
Yeah,
This technology is blowing me away.
it's
I'm
so
just
cool.
telling you.
It's so
I'm so
cool.
used to being stuck in a studio, and now, as some of my listeners on my first show discovered, I had to manipulate my way through this newer technology, having a home studio,
Sure.
and it's a little bit different. So I'm asking for a little bit of grace from our listeners as they watch the radio dinosaur work his way through the technology.
You're
So, but I'm getting it
phenomenal. You're just
slowly.
fine. Your show was great. People love listening to you, and the technology it definitely has a learning curve to it, as it always does. And guess what? It's not going anywhere. So for those of you, there's always going to be new updates on the cell phone, always new updates on computers, and so the learning curve isn't done yet, John, for any of us in this world
But
of
you got your
media.
coffee handy?
Yes.
Here's a cheers to the two new guys. Clink.
Link. Thanks, John.
And
All right.
see
It's been
you on.
wonderful having you on.
Thank you.
I'll see you on the show on Friday, okay?
Friday and then Saturday, 6A to 10A. Thanks, Shireen. Have a
Can't
great
wait.
day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That was cool having him on there. John, of course, old-time radio guy, has been doing it a long time, so it's just phenomenal having him on the show there and really being able to find out more from John Beggs, who will be on Saturday mornings on Cowboy State Daily. So if you've been yearning for a cool weekend morning show, that guy is the guy to tune into. Like he said, he's going to talk about Cheyenne Frontier Days and sports and make the Saturday show for Cowboy State Daily just a little different, maybe not so news heavy, and John will do just a phenomenal job. So we'll be back in a moment. It's Cowboy State Daily's morning show. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake.
Wyoming is the cowboy state. From corner to corner, there are so many stories to be told, and more cowboys and cowgirls are turning to the Cowboy State Daily News team to keep them in touch with what's happening both locally and in other parts of Wyoming. I'm Riley Strand, videographer and production assistant for Cowboy State Daily Video News. We're proud to bring the most important stories to our viewers every day. The stories that start conversations, the stories that make us laugh, the stories that make us think. Our experienced journalists at Cowboy State Daily are crisscrossing the state every day, talking to those who know the news best. Every day, host Wendy Core and I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites. And in our daily newscast, we bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily video newscast every morning, only on cowboystatedaily.com.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Welcome back to the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake on this beautiful Tuesday morning. We have highs on Thursday in the 70s for most all of Wyoming. A couple of locations might be in the mid to upper 60s, Don said, but otherwise Thursday looks like the best weather day across the state. And enjoy that because by the time we hit the weekend and Sunday, we could see some moisture for sure, Don said, but could see some snow at higher elevations with the colder temperatures expected through the weekend. So I know that I'm traveling. A lot of folks may be traveling back and forth from spring break fun, from other areas too. So really just keep that in mind. I always check the YDOT 511 app. It's my go-to when I travel, and you'll be able to see if there's any adverse conditions or what's going on. So, all right, we have our next guest. We'll get Jackie Dorothy on here momentarily and chat with Jackie. Jackie!
Yay! How are you doing?
Good. You look beautiful. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm doing great. Behind me, really, we do have snow still here in Thermopolis. And it's just been a great wet spring, very muddy.
Yeah, well, we need it, so we'll take it. And this weekend, I think we'll get some more precip and maybe even some snow at higher elevations, Dawn said. So potentially could see some adverse weather back in the mix here. But Jackie, we need the moisture, so I'm all about it.
Burlington.
Wow, I forget track is already starting. Wow.
I was in shock myself, so
Parents,
you're not the only
I'm
one.
always so impressed with parents. They just have a list of activities and back to back to back.
It is. It
All
is. Oops.
all right, Jackie. Well, you folks probably know Jackie Dorothy. She's well known in the state. But Jackie, I'm using this as a little bit of a reintroduction to just because you guys have so many new viewers and new listeners and new followers. And so I thought just for a second, let's find out a little bit more about Jackie Dorothy.
Okay, well, what do you want to know?
Tell us, what do you like to do in your spare time? Although I kind of know a little bit, but what do you like to do? What are some hobbies you have?
Well, I'm definitely a history geek, so I will go down any rabbit hole that comes my way, and I'm always reading about the history of the Cowboy State. That comes because I'm seventh generation cow. Find out why we're here, who we are, and do that on all aspects. It's just been so much fun, and to be able to share that with the readers, it's a blast. And you know what's really funny? History is us. I just got to interview Jerry Kinsler, our flower guy, and that was fun. That's history, right?
That
Jerry's
is
all about
so history. How long has he been open? I forget.
over 50 years.
Right. That's definitely history. Jackie, I knew you are a history buff, and you do some really cool stuff when it comes to history. I was just telling John Beggs, who was on with me, about the Yellowstone Highway trek we did for the 100th centennial, and you were just so phenomenal. It was like it rolled off it was just second nature.
I lived and breathed that Yellowstone Highway. So what you're talking about is how the Wind River Canyon was built, the road through it in 1924. And I thought it was worth celebrating. So I really did a big push. I got everybody excited and it worked. I mean, it is exciting. And then here's the kicker. The rest of the highway was built in 1926. So we have another 100th anniversary coming up.
I like that. Let's get another bus full. We had a bus full of people for that trek.
We did, and it was so much fun. We just traveled around, told stories about all the people that helped build this highway before and after. I mean, we have some colorful characters in this area.
Yeah, we do. And we started at the old Shoshone jail, which I had no idea was even there, but it's still standing, still there. So we started there, and then we took this very immersive trip through the canyon with Jackie guiding us step by step. And you could close your eyes during that trip, Jackie, and you could just visualize what you were talking about. And yeah, it's just phenomenal. I hope more people take these history treks and gear up or partner up with the museums and go on these trips with you. Are you doing some of those things this summer?
What we're doing right now is just making sure all those stories are on our podcast, Pioneers of Outlaw Country. And so I definitely recommend that, making sure we share the stories here at Cowboy State Daily. and just get the word out that Wyoming has some of the best history. That's what makes our state so unique.
Well, Jackie, I might be putting you on the spot. And if so, just ignore me and tell me not to talk about that anymore. What is the feelings like in Thermopolis, Hot Springs County, with the closure of the Star Plunge and all of that? Is because your pulse is on that community, and so if there's anybody I want to ask, it's you.
Well, we're definitely hopeful that things can be settled and we can have a Star Plunge back. In the meantime, we do have the teepee and the summer hours at the bathhouse.
Yeah, and the
So
bathhouse is free, so that's nice. And
it
they extended
is.
them, right?
Oh, yep, they extended it to their summer contract. They said that they have
Oh.
working on currently. I just talked to an archaeologist about some of the great discoveries he's made throughout the Cowboy State. Wyoming has some treasures dating back to the Oregon Trail that there's still treasures being discovered along the way of that trail. We have prehistoric history. And so I got to talk to him about some of his favorite finds. So stay tuned for that story. We got to talk about this though. It is Wyoming Women's, it's what is it called? Women's History Month this
Oh,
month.
yes, yes.
So we were able to do stories about some of our historic women. And if you go on our website now at Cowboy State Daily, you'll see one about Dora McGrath. And she's one of the lesser known of the women pioneers, and she deserves so much more attention for what she's done. And I chose to highlight a part of her career that I was fascinated by just because our perspective of prohibition is that women, mothers, were against it or were for prohibition.
Right.
And actually, the network of women, and it was the mothers that got prohibition eliminated and taken off as the 18th Amendment.
Wow.
And we're in the middle of it. She became Wyoming's first state senator. She was sent to Chicago for the Republican convention. And that's the other thing I thought was interesting. It was the Republican Party that was really pushing hard. And these women, they saw prohibition as a failed experiment, as they called it. And Dora McGrath, our first woman senator, cast her vote against it and helped bring back the saloons to Wyoming.
Wow, where would we be without our saloons here? You know?
It's more fun, definitely, to be able to have a beer once in a while
Well,
and
yeah,
to
we
have the freedom to choose.
Right, exactly. The freedom to choose and the fact that we are the equality state, it just works hand in hand. Jackie, are there any stories that you have just been yearning to be able to dive into? Is there an area of Wyoming that has just not been explored by historian Jackie Dorothy?
Oh, so many areas. That's what's been fun about it is that I'm starting to expand outside of Hot Springs County and discover the stories that you read yet. But if you go back into the archives and you look, I did a story on an exploding cow. It was at Wind River Canyon, and they were just mucking out their mine, and there was this milk cow wandering around. And when they came out, they watched the last of their dynamite go down her throat. And they were furious. She just ate their dynamite. So they picked up a rock and threw it at her, and she exploded.
Oh my gosh.
It was so volatile and with the friction that they caused. And they were really upset then because the old miner, the prospector that owned the cow, expected to be paid for his cow.
Well, as we know in this day and age too, Jackie, cattle are worth every penny, I guess. So
Yes. So those are the kinds of stories you stumble upon. It was just a little article. I already knew the characters that were involved, what kind of people they were, that they were honest, upright, and the newspaper man himself would not publish anything that wasn't truth. So then I went into a deep dive about exploding animals, and sure enough, dynamite was a problem.
you know, that feels like that should be on an episode of Mythbusters, where you think like that's a myth, like, oh yeah, that's a myth. There's no way. And then all of a sudden they feed dynamite to an animal and throw a rock and there you go.
Oh, yeah, I think they'd have to do a dummy animal on that
Right. Yeah.
show.
Probably in this day and age for sure. Jackie, you are such a wealth of knowledge, and it's so great to chat with you and have somebody that I've had some interaction with on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with me while I'm filling in for Jake, because it's not easy. 4 hours.
Imagine 4 hours of talking.
Yeah, 4 hours of
I will
talking.
I will say, before we go, that the most popular story that of mine that just got published was about sheep wagon.
Yeah, you know,
I
Jack,
know Jack.
they've got
Of
those
course,
sheep
I know
wagons.
Jack.
Yeah, they've got those sheep wagons. And so when I saw the story about
The
Jimmo,
Dutch ovens.
yeah, Jim
Yep.
O'Rourke, is that his name? Or was his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, he was, and in fact, I just talked to his brother. If you talk about upcoming stories, what two contrasts. While Jim went on to build and preserve sheep wagons, his brother became a Wyoming sailor and sailed the ocean blue. And
What?
it's like two boys from Buffalo, Wyoming. It's always fun to see where people go from the Cowboy State.
Where would we be without people trying to tell other people's stories? I feel like, Jackie, we live in a day and age, and this will be the last thing I say so I don't keep you too much longer, but we live in a day and age where everybody wants attention for themselves a little bit, or they're posting on social media, look at me, look at me. And you're the reverse and the opposite, where you're like, look at them, and how cool is this? And we just need more of that.
Oh, it's been a blast uncovering the stories of Wyoming, and I'll continue to do it.
Yeah, make sure
It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Jackie. And make sure you check out that sheep wagon story. Wyoming man's obsession helped preserve and promote sheep wagons online, cowboystatedaily.com. Jackie, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds great.
Yeah. All right, it's always a pleasure to chat with the historian herself, Jackie Dorothy. And like I had mentioned when I was on with Jackie, we've had, boy, does she know her stuff. So I think it's really important that Cowboy State Daily is encouraging those types of stories and encouraging folks like Jackie to write stories about individuals, history, the 100th centennial of the Yellowstone Highway. And like she said, another portion was built in 1926. And so it's coming up next year on that second 100th centennial of another portion of that highway there. So some cool stories, some cool info. Jackie did tease a little bit. She's got some cool stories coming up. One is about the gentleman who would preserve the sheep wagons. His brother, who became a Wyoming sailor, which is not something you have in the same sentence together. And then she's also going to talk to Jerry Kinsler with Jerry's Flowers and Things. So some cool history, some cool lessons there from Miss Jackie Dorothy herself. I'm Shireen Herrera, filling in for Jake for the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm pretty excited too because we do have an author that's coming up on the show. We'll be talking more about some of the great stories that Cowboy State Daily has put out. And of course, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel, to the Facebook page, to the live video, and stay in the know on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show, or what's going on with breaking news across the state of Wyoming. This is the place to be. So glad to have you with Cowboy State Daily.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, March 25th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. A 15-year-old Glenrock girl's sophomore year of high school was marked by anonymous and fraudulent texts by someone who was working to make others hate her. Now almost 17, Jillian Holman didn't get her natural good cheer back until last Wednesday when 41-year-old Glenrock woman Marcy Smith was sentenced to probation on 2 stalking charges in Douglas Circuit Court. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the stalking was more than just bombarding the girl with messages or following her around.
There's an impersonation element where loved ones of Jillian's were receiving what looked like screenshots or text conversations where a Jillian contact was saying horrible things or was insulting people. The Holmans, even though they confirmed her innocence and in the end they completely believed her, it did rattle their family.
Holman and her family are hoping that legislation can be enacted that would enhance penalties when adults stalk minors. President Donald Trump's jumbo jet remained parked at the Cheyenne Regional Airport on Monday. It's hard to miss with a dark blue, red, and white body and Trump printed near the front and a large waving American flag on the tail. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that the Trump Organization's Boeing 757-200, which is dubbed Trump Force One, landed at the Cheyenne Airport sometime around late afternoon to early evening Saturday and has drawn considerable attention.
This is the Trump family's personal private airplane. airplane. This is not to be confused with Air Force One, which is the presidential airplane that now is at Trump's disposal that he's president again. It's unknown who exactly was taking the flight. His family, namely his daughter Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner, have come to Wyoming before and taken a similar plane while frequenting the Brush Creek Ranch in Saratoga.
The director of marketing for Brush Creek Ranch would neither confirm nor deny that members of the Trump family are staying there. Sweetwater County officials remain hopeful that a controversial Bureau of Land Management land use plan can be changed more to their liking, even as Wyoming Republican Congresswoman Harriet Hageman joined a push to revise BLM plans across the West. Sweetwater County Commissioner Taylor Jones told Outdoors reporter Mark Hines that county officials recently met with Hageman, adding that from the county's perspective, it would be best to revise the proposed Rock Springs Area Resource Management Plan, but not completely scrap it.
The new Secretary of the Interior kind of put a hold on it for revision, and now there's also legislation that's been introduced to Congress to kind of halt, revise, and possibly even reverse these resource management plans for the BLM all across the West, including out of the Rock Springs office and the Buffalo Field office in Wyoming. I talked to the Sweetwater County Commissioner today, and he said they don't want to just totally scrap it and start over because they said that could take years. They'd rather revise what they got, and from their perspective, tip a little bit more toward multiple use towards things like motorized access, energy exploration, and those sorts of things.
The BLM manages about 3.6 million acres of land from the Rock Springs office, the bulk of it in Sweetwater County. The BLM's preferred plan would have designated 1.8 million acres, or about half, as areas of critical environmental concern. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
The Washakie County Sheriff's Office is investigating human remains discovered by a Wyoming Game and Fish warden on Sunday. The unnamed warden had been tracking a deer collar in a remote area of the county when he came across the remains. Cowboy State Daily's Jen Coker reached out to authorities about the find, but was told there isn't much information they can release.
They wouldn't provide a location, nor would they provide any other details. I also spoke to the coroner, and he was going to meet with the dentist to compare dental records. Again, he would not say whose dental records he was comparing to, if it was one person or 12. So not much information is available at this time, but I will report anything as soon as I have it available.
Currently, Brianna Mitchell is the only person reported missing in Washakie County. The then 28-year-old Worland woman's car was found abandoned and stuck on a rugged 2-track trail near Worland in the summer of 2023. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. There was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Learn more at helpheart.org.
And we are back, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake. Glad to be here. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate your support as well. And this day in history, Jake does this, and I have no idea where he gets this really long list of this day in history in Wyoming, but I just have a couple this morning. So, today in Wyoming daily history, 1918, the Wyoming Tribune, a newspaper, changed its name to the Wyoming State Tribune in 1918 on this day. And on this day in 2008, a magnitude 4.5 earthquake occurred about 48 miles from the center of Cody. So, a couple of things today in Wyoming daily history. 1918, the Wyoming Tribune newspaper changed its name to the Wyoming State Tribune. And in 2008, a magnitude 4.5 earthquake occurred about 48 miles from the center of Cody. So there you go, and there you be. Some fun facts to impress your friends with. You can take those to trivia night if you have any Wyoming specific questions. What a beautiful day in Wyoming, a beautiful week ahead. Things changing this weekend, of course. You can find on Day's forecast. You can find his podcast as well, which gives you the information you need to know when it comes to what's going on with the weather and, what will happen with the weather. He expects a cold start to April in the form of precip, which is much needed. And see who this is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I feel like I'm from Blue's Clues or something. Mail time or guest guest time.
I used to watch that show with my two older sons when they were little.
Yeah,
I used to watch Blue's Clues all the time. Yeah.
Love Blue's Clues. How are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good, good. What's your morning like?
I don't know. It's just started. I don't.
Well, Mark, good. You got your
Yeah.
coffee going?
I do. Yeah. My last job before this, I had to get up at like 4 a.m, and this job I get to be lazy and sleep in until 7:45 or whatever. So
Yeah, which is still early compared to some for sure. But well, what's your week like this week?
Good so far.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's only
yeah.
Tuesday though.
Yeah. Only Tuesday.
What kind of stories are you working on, Mark?
Well, we can talk about the ones I did. The whole thing with the BLM RMP. That's a lot of acronyms, which is the Bureau of Land Management's resource management plan out of the Rock Springs office. That remains kind of the topic of controversy, and a few people seem to like it. Most people in Wyoming seem to not like it. They argue that it's too restrictive, and then of course our lone congressional representative here in Wyoming, Representative Hagman, has jumped on board with a national Congress to kind of revise RMPs throughout the entire West, including the Rock Springs and Buffalo field offices. So.
Wasn't there a coalition that was put together? Was that the Little Green Mountain Coalition or something that was a part of kind of trying to help?
Oh, the greater Little Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like an area within an area. You've got the area, the I think it's like 3 million and some change that the Rock Springs RMP covers, and within that, there's the greater Little Mountain area, and that's one thing that everybody seems to agree on, is that they basically want that left untouched. They want that, for the comparison on Forest Service. Everybody seems fine with that.
That's good.
Yeah, but it's the rest of that RMP that there's contention. Is the BLM planning on shutting down roads? Are they going to restrict energy exploration? Are they going to restrict grazing? These are some of the questions that particularly people local to that area seem to have, and concerns that they have about that. So,
is that where the Jonah mine is?
The Jonah Field, I
Jonah
think it's kind of in the same area.
Yeah, I remember listening.
I'm not sure.
I listened to a podcast, and a guy from the Jonah Field from Jonah itself was on there talking about how they're really into conservation, and I think that's a misconception with some of the oil and gas companies. So that was just good to hear.
Yeah. Ulrich, we talked to him quite a bit. I know that's what his day job is. He works with Jonah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How much more of do you expect there to be some follow-ups with this story, because there's still some uncertainty?
It just depends. It depends on what I mean, it's a federal agency, so it's moving at the speed of bureaucracy.
Good times.
I've been covering it for probably close to 2 years now, and you
Right.
know, um, I do think it's they're going to go back to the drawing table with it and revise it. Um, the new administration came in with a new Secretary of Interior who kind of shut down the process as far as it had gotten, and now they're going back. And at least from the locals' perception is that they're getting more input better this time. As well, it's not just the locals, the governor too. Our governor has opposed it from the get-go.
Right.
And my impression is that he feels that he's being listened to better than he was previously. So, make of that what you will.
Yep.
But
Well, Mark, another interesting story that you wrote was about the rattlesnakes in Benadryl. I had no idea. That's not good?
no, apparently it's not. I mean, I guess at the very least it's just completely ineffective because the way the guy I talked to explained it to me is rattlesnake venom is it's literal tissue destruction. That's what if you want to you can but in layman's terms it's literally physically destroying tissue. Whereas Benadryl is what it's antihistamine. It blocks those histamines that your body can produce to create, the allergy is essentially a non-necessary reaction. Like, I have seasonal allergies. It's like having a cold when you don't have a cold, because my body is responding to some kind of irritant by releasing histamines, which, give you the runny nose, watery
Right.
eyes,
Mm-hmm.
all that fun stuff, and in extreme cases it can cause anaphylactic shock. But I think that is yet another different process, which Benadryl I don't or wouldn't do anything for, because it's an allergic reaction, not a.
That makes sense. That makes
So
sense.
yeah.
I have done a number of interviews with scientists and doctors about rattlesnake bites, and I still forget what the heck to do. Like, I still, to this day, even though I've done a number of these, I've read lots of articles, and then I get out in the wild or whatever, and I'm hiking around, and I'm like, I'm in rattlesnake country. I don't know what to do
Yeah.
if I get bit.
Just can't get to a hospital as fast as
I
you
guess so.
can.
But I guess you
It's-
have to call them first, because some of them don't have the anti-venom on hand.
Yeah,
I learned that.
Yeah. You'd have to call them ahead of time, which, in Wyoming, we don't have cell service everywhere sometimes. So,
Well, yeah, that was what happened. I was on Johnny Behind the Rocks, which is a popular hiking place where I'm at, and just Rattlesnakeville. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I don't know what to do if something happens. There's no cell service. And
yeah, you might.
I imagine, Mark, before too long, the rattlesnakes will be out and about. So,
Oh, they probably already are in some parts of the state.
yeah,
I don't.
true.
Um,
Especially with 70s.
yeah, you're right. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't think about rattlesnakes. I probably should, but before I was in I've been in Wyoming more than 20 years, but before I was in southern Idaho, and of course that was rattlesnake roundup there.
Yeah, I used to live there too.
The big ones down there, the ones that are like that big around.
Right.
Yeah, I ran into them a few times. That's no fun. But
Yeah, well, it's that dry high desert they have there in the south. Of
yeah,
Idaho.
yeah. When people think of Idaho, they think of like
Yeah, I
southern
think
Idaho. And you're right. It's all big wide open sage flats and 110 degrees in the summer. It's not, it's totally different world down there.
I had to call search and rescue. Well, they ended up not
Oh,
coming.
you did?
When I was down at Jerome. Was it Jerome? And I was.
Yeah, I used to live in Jerome. That's a great little town.
Yeah, so it was outside of Jerome, but I was hiking the Idaho Centennial Trail, which starts at the Nevada border. But at the start of the trail, it goes through the Frank Church Wilderness, which is all mountains and beautiful. But the start of it is the desert. And so we go at the end of May, and my friend tells me, she said, I said, did we cache any water, or are we going to? She said, no. Big mistake. She said, no, there are enough cattle troughs around this area that we will find water and we will filter it out with our filters. So I'm like, okay. Well, every single cattle trough and watering area we ran across was dry as a bone.
Yeah.
And
Man.
yeah, it ended up being the craziest thing. So I ended up getting a Pica cell service. We have no water. I can barely walk. I had injured my my left leg a little bit. I had something wrong with a muscle or something. So I can barely walk. We're completely lost at this point because we're trying to find water. And then we did find water. And my friend, unbeknownst to us, has a hole in her bladder. And so we filter the whole, all the water. It takes like 45 minutes. We start walking like a mile and realize that we lost all the water that she had. And I just had a little bottle. So I get a blip of service. I contact a friend that I know is around. They don't have a job at the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're lost. Come save us. Come find us. And they end up calling Search and Rescue. And Search and Rescue was like, hey, if you can find them yourself first, it will be a lot cheaper. So he comes out nighttime and oddly enough finds us randomly. We're like bawling our eyes out. I'll never forget that. That's my
you were lucky because even May, it's already getting brutally hot down there in May.
So crazy. I think we had a 100-degree day in May. So and like you said, Mark, people don't think of Southern Idaho like that. So anyways.
No, it's
Love my stories. All right, Mark. Well, now that I've bored you with all my fun, quirky stories there, anything else that we need to know that you're going to be covering this week?
Well, I've already written a story about. It's kind of interesting. There's a lady in Missouri who's a horse trainer who's really interested in the. We've had a couple stories about the Wyoming curly-haired Mustangs, and she wants those. What she's trying to do is she's trying to recreate basically the. Are you familiar with the Honor Farm?
Oh yeah,
over by Riverton.
Yeah, that's right.
Where low risk inmates can be paired with horses.
Yep.
She wants to do that with the Department of Corrections in Missouri, and she says that those curly-haired Mustangs, she's had a couple. They are the perfect horses for that because they're super tough, they're super intelligent, and she said they're very forgiving of novice mistakes. So they're trainable. So she said, if you start running up those curlies, send them my way because I want them for my program. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, those kinds of stories are important, Mark. So we'll be looking forward to that. And I think I'll have you back on while I fill in for Jake here. I hope so because I noticed that you write a lot about conservation and outdoor stuff, and that's my jam. So I love all your stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We can get on BS about stuff.
All right.
Yeah. Tuesdays and Thursdays. This was my Tuesday appearance. I'll see you again same time on Thursday.
All right, Mark. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You have a good morning.
All right. Great to have Mark Hines on. He does write some cool stories, cowboystatedaily.com, that I really do enjoy. So thank you to Mark. And I was just looking at, he wrote that story that was also ever so popular. If Colorado wolves keep crossing into Wyoming, they might not last long, as you've seen the stories with the wolves. But he also writes a lot about the environment, conservation, some political things that have to do with conservation. So I really appreciate him getting on with us this morning. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake. It's the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show.
It's the Rodeo Roadshow on the Western Ag Network. Hi, everybody. I'm Will Rasmussen. Rodeo Houston is over now, ended over the weekend. And wow, was there a lot of money picked up by some great cowboys. The winner of each event, they picked up over $70,000. We'll talk about the winners at Rodeo Houston from the Lone Star State. Coming up next on the Roadshow.
Cattlemen, this is Cameron Deno coming to you from Gardner-Deno Angus Ranch, better known as GDAR. The prefix with nearly 7 decades, raising heavy-muscled, problem-free bulls with the right genetic package to improve your bottom line. On March 27th, 265 Angus bulls and 250 commercial heifers sold right here at the ranch. Sydney, Montana. 100% guaranteed, plus free delivery. Learn more at gdar-angus.com.
Sale season's here again, and there are a lot of black-hided Angus bulls on the market, but not all of them are registered. Why take the risk? Don't gamble on unproven genetics. Invest wisely with registered, powered by Angus bulls. Backed by the power of the American Angus Association and 80 million data points, registered Angus bulls give you the confidence in your buying decisions. Don't buy an imposter. Look for the registration number. Buy the power. Buy registered Angus bulls.
Rodeo Houston is got over the weekend, and boy, a lot of people won a lot of money, including the winners. We talked about pocketing over $70,000 to win that great show. In the bareback riding, Rocker Steiner wins the bareback riding. Tucker Allen from California, the national finalist just once. He's going to go back again after his steer wrestling win in Houston. The Arizona team of Derek Begay and Coulter Todd are the team roping champions. Ryder Wright, the world champion saddle bronc rider from the famous Wright family, wins the saddle bronc riding. Two-time world champion Riley Webb wins the tie-down roping. The young man from Texas, only 22 years old. In the breakaway roping, Taylor Munsell from Alva, Oklahoma. She wins the breakaway roping event. There is Cassie Mowry from Texas. Boy, she has been a mainstay for the last half dozen years at the National Finals Rodeo. Goes to number 1 in the world in the barrel race. And Tristan Hutchings from Idaho, the bull riding champion at Rodeo Houston. We're going to check those world standings here in the next day or two on the Rodeo Roadshow. I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network.
Welcome to Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. This Day Weather Podcast is being brought to you by ConverseCountyTourism.com. Feel the energy of Converse County. Explore Douglas's railroad heritage, Ayers Natural Bridge, and the Jackalope legend. Glen Rock boasts scenic trails, dinosaur history, and small-town charm. Plan your visit at ConverseCountyTourism.com. Well, I can guarantee just about all of you out there are going to be getting some form or fashion of spring fever. As high pressure is building in and clouds, warmer temperatures, and less wind. Now, I don't think anyone's going to be mad about the less wind part. It doesn't mean zero wind, but we will see the pattern, which has made it very, very windy here lately, ease up a bit, especially today, tomorrow, and into the day on Thursday. So enjoy and take advantage of it. Now, with the warmer conditions, the atmosphere gets a little unstable, and as a little bit of moisture comes in, there might be a few afternoon showers and weak thunderstorms as early as Thursday in some areas, but temperatures through Thursday and even into the beginnings of Friday do still stay very mild. But that very large storm off the Pacific coast, as we have been talking about, is going to fracture, and pieces of the system begin to move inland. And it looks like we've got two separate pieces. One piece that comes in Friday. This will produce shower and thunderstorm activity in the Great Basin, the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest, and into parts of the Rockies, mainly in the form of scattered showers and thunder. Then a second wave comes in Saturday, Sunday. That one will be colder, that one will be larger and more moist. And you put the two together, and that's going to lead to some chances of precipitation this weekend. And in areas that could be 60s to near 70, may have a chance of snow before the weekend's over. So it's springtime in the Rockies. We're going to see a very active pattern next week. There's a lot of different scenarios. As we've been mentioning, the model's having a really difficult time. That'll continue in the next week, but we're going to have more pieces of that West Coast system breaking off and coming through. But the timing and the path of these exact location of these systems is going to be a little bit tricky. But the first week of April is going to be active, is the bottom line there. I wanted to touch again on the rain gauge rally. The Coco Ross program of volunteer folks who track precipitation, rain, and snowfall. The idea here in the month of March is to get as many new observers as possible. Now, it's been brought to my attention that we're getting to the end here, and you got to look at the states that are ahead in the rain gauge rally. There's two ways that you can win here. You can win by the pure number of stations, people signing up, volunteers signing up. Minnesota, I think, has got this one in the bag. But there's a per capita rank right here where the number of volunteers is based on the number of people you have in your state. So Wyoming right now is second to Minnesota, but Minnesota's got both first places. We cannot let that happen. We do not want Minnesota to run the table here. And we've got till next Monday for you to sign up. So volunteers, anywhere that you're hearing this podcast, we need volunteers to help measure rain and snow. For those of you that look at the drought monitor all the time, information that is submitted like this in places where we don't have good radar coverage or measurements of rainfall and snow, it's really important. So if you look at the leaderboard here, Wyoming is standing at second with 16 new signups. However, to get to this per capita scoring here, if you look at the number of points that are needed, when you look at how far the count is right now with Minnesota, what this comes out to is that Wyoming, you need 15 more signups to catch up to Minnesota. So we need 15 more volunteers in Wyoming to measure precipitation. So we need you to go ahead and get going because you actually do have a cup. There's actually a trophy. Yes, there's a trophy with this. If you're wondering why it looks weird, it's because that's a rain gauge. And these rain gauges hold up to 10 inches of water, which is a lot of beer. And the reason I throw the beer on there is this is like the Stanley Cup. It moves around. It's a traveling trophy. So let's see if we can get the per capita. 15 more signups needed in Wyoming, and we need a lot of signups along the I-80 corridor. Now, we know that there's not a lot of people here, right? We know that. But this is a real big data void. So if you're in this data void where we're not getting rain and snow measured, please sign up. We need that information. This is an area where we need to track the precipitation better. Beautiful cloudscapes. Boy, as you'll see here in a minute, last evening, bringing up some beautiful sunset conditions and sunrise conditions with the specific moisture coming on in. We get a lot of layers to the clouds, a lot of texture, so we get beautiful views like this. And then Jan Curtis put together a great time lapse of lots of different flare-ups, so to speak, of colors with the sundown yesterday across southeastern Wyoming. So you can see the layer of clouds, then you can see these alternating periods of different colors. Just a beautiful sunset across the region. And with a lot of sun and some high and mid-level clouds drifting through at times, we're going to have that opportunity again over the next several evenings and the next several mornings. The surface chart this morning shows what's left of the wave going through the northern plains. Pretty quiet really across the country because of that big area of high pressure that's overhead, and you can really see it on the satellite image. Look at the clouds going up and over around this big old high. So this is just going to lead to some very happy people because of some spring weather coming our way under this high pressure ridge. If you look at the weather across the nation, there's not a lot going on. Now we do have avalanche dangers because of shifting temperatures up here. The green here is because of snow melt. With the very warm temperatures coming in, snowmelt accelerating, so creeks, rivers, and streams will be on the rise. We'll have some fog down here along the Gulf Coast. But boy, this is just really quiet across the nation. Take advantage of it. It's spring. This little breaks like this don't happen for too long. When we take a look at where we are with the high pressure.
All right, great getting a little info from Dawn on the long forecast. Of course, Dawn on that forecast will break out all of the area and surrounding parts too as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have another guest joining the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. Sir, how are you?
Good. How are you this morning?
Good. What's your name?
Kevin Meyer.
Oh, okay, cool. It said I saw Mance on the thing, so I was hoping not to call you the wrong name, Kevin.
Yeah, well, that's the name of the business, Mance Creek Horses.
Oh, I love it. Okay, cool. Well, Kevin, I loved your cowboy hat. You're obviously Western.
Well, I try to be. I have been so far.
Well, you know what? Most Wyoming men are Western without trying. That's just their way
That's
of
a
life.
fact.
That is a
That's
fact.
a fact. It just kind of comes inherent with our zip code.
It does, and Kevin, I was just reading spring break data and information, and they said the number one thing Gen Zers are looking to do is for spring break is to wear cowboy core and visit Western destinations. So you've got the cowboy
Well,
core.
all of a sudden, thanks to Taylor Sheridan and several TV shows and movies, we're the in thing right now. It's nice to be popular again. It always goes in cycles. I'm old enough to remember when John Travolta came out with Urban. He fell out of favor, and now we're going back into it again. And I tell everybody, be very happy and try to make as much money off of it as you can. I imagine right now, you could probably sell a well-worn pair of jeans that you'd usually throw out or use for a shop rag. You could probably sell that on eBay for a little bit of money.
That's an idea right there, Kevin. I'm going to go dig out some of my chaps and try to make some money.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's a new as is in Wyoming. It never fully falls out of favor as places like Jackson Hole and even over where you are, Lander.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of tourists from all over the world are always coming to Wyoming so they can, for a week, feel just as miserable as the rest of us do all year.
I love that you put it that way, Kevin. I think that's worth a good chuckle and has a little truth to it as well. But when they get that wind like we had yesterday, it can send them packing pretty quick sometimes.
Well, we always refer to that as a low population day because that's really what keeps people coming here to visit but not staying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about where you are there in Riverton today, but I know for us around here, we're going to spend a couple hours this morning just trying to rebalance ourselves. We're so used to walking with a little bit of pressure against us, and so now we've got
Driving
to
like
we're like little kids. We have to figure out how to walk and balance ourselves again.
Yeah, that's actually true. And earlier I was talking about just the muscles I build from
Yeah,
keeping my steering wheel straight is pretty amazing. I'm always like, yeah, that's worth a workout right there. Um,
yeah.
well, Kevin, can you tell the folks a little bit about yourself? Because I think it's a good idea, not only for myself, but we have new viewers, new listeners, new followers who just don't really get to know Kevin Meyer and what you and who you are.
Well, I am a horse trainer. I am based out of Douglas. I am a full-time horse trainer and a part-time rancher. I run a few cows and this and that. I also have a podcast that comes out every now and then. I have not been as consistent on that as I need to, but it's cowboy stories and whatnot.
What's it called?
And it is called Mornings on Horseback.
Oh, how cute.
And this week I will have a episode kind of a band called Wiley in the Wild West, but all of the listeners out here will know him as the guy who says Yahoo on the commercials.
No way.
Yeah, yep.
Oh my gosh, that's one of those. I used to play a game on the radio, Kevin, called Slogan Off. I give you the slogan, you give me the product, and that would be one very common one that people would know.
Yeah,
That's cool.
absolutely. And Jake and I don't think we've ever covered exactly how I ended up on this show, but years and years and years ago, I was running a dude ranch in Jackson and I hired Jake to be a wrangler.
I love it.
And that is how, and we've just kind of kept in touch over the years here and there. And when he started this radio show, we got to talking, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come on and as he always puts it, try to make horse sense out of the world." And so I try to do that as best I can.
Wow, Kevin, that's great. Jake has done everything. I'm imagining him as a wrangler, and like I've mentioned before, he's uber talented. So I don't deny he was just as good as wrangling as he is on the radio, or maybe he wasn't very good at wrangling.
Well, he was really, really good with the guests.
Oh,
He
yes.
he was really good with them because he's such a likable guy and he can talk to just anybody.
Yep.
Um, you notice I didn't say anything about his horsemanship.
There you go. We'll leave that alone. Well, when you talk about being in the horse world, did you ferry too? Like shoe horses back in the day, or?
I still do.
Okay. You might be the guy
Yeah.
that everybody goes to. Are you? Because a lot of people have to travel to get that done now.
Yeah, I've slowed down. I used to do a lot more. Now I mainly just do the ones that we have in training, and in fact, I don't even do all of those anymore. We have a friend of ours that he comes in. He used to work for us, and he's shoeing pretty much full time now, making saddles and horseshoeing. Because I'm getting to the age where I don't like to crawl underneath them near as much as I used to, but I still do it enough that I keep my skills up. In fact, I got to go do a couple here. I should do them today. I might put it off till tomorrow because today's an awful nice day. This might be a sit on the porch kind of a day.
Yeah, you got to play hooky, Kevin, today.
Well, the funny thing is here in Wyoming, we all spend all winter just wishing and hoping for a really nice day to work in. And that nice day finally comes and we don't want to work.
Nope. We need the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've really not had too bad of a winter, but this last week with the wind has really reminded us how lucky we have been for most of the winter. And I heard you talking earlier this morning about that 116-mile-an-hour wind on Mount Coffin. Did you see that there was a train derailment there by Rock River?
Yeah, I did see that. I forgot all about talking about that.
And they think that it might have been the wind that had, tipped those over, and I grew up about 50 miles north of there, and I can tell you, it can be really, really breezy around that part of the country.
Yeah, Yeah, it sounds like that's exactly what happened. CowboyStateDaily.com. You can read that story. I guess I see a lot of things getting tipped over. I guess being a Wyomingite, it's just second nature that it's the wind. I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's you know, a lot of times you don't even see news stories about semis going over because that's just Tuesday.
Right, exactly. I mean, another day in Wyoming's another windy day.
Yeah, yeah.
We had 75-mile-per-hour winds. I had our weather guy here. He has this little wind stick that he takes out and it spins and he can get an accurate reading. We had two 75-mile-per-hour gusts here in Riverton and then consistent 50-mile-per-hour. It wasn't just a gust, it was consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's no fun. There's not really anything well in that except hide in your house and hope that your roof stays on.
Yeah, my hair didn't look so good yesterday. Rolling around. It was pretty messy. I just couldn't keep it together. Kevin, you are our honorary cowboy. I love that Cowboy State Daily has you on. I wanted to ask you something because I do think ferrying, which if you don't know, that's the term they use for the folks that shoe horses, is a completely lost art. And we're not getting a lot of young folks that are interested in it. But isn't it interesting that everybody wants this cowboy core, as I say, or this Western themed destination, but we're not seeing a lot of people getting into the actual business, correct?
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to do that, and there's a lot of people that there's a reason that you never saw John Wayne ever do any actual cowboy work. Because actual cowboy work is pretty boring, it's pretty monotonous, and so yeah, and the trades, like horseshoeing is a trade, and there is an art and a lot of science to it, and it's not easy, but there's a lot more money in it now than there used to be, but it's not the most glamorous way to make a living in the world. And there's a lot of people, and this is true of not just horseshoeing, but also cowboying and working for ranches. A lot of people will come out and try because they're expecting the romance of it. And then once they realize what the reality of it is, well, they decide that they can probably go make quite a bit more money in quite a few shorter hours doing something else.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, but I do hope that we get some more folks that are involved in shoeing horses because we have some, and it's hard to get somebody, as we just mentioned, and they only have a certain number of days, certain number of times that they can actually do it, and they're traveling all around the state, if not multiple states. Um,
Yeah, and it's one of those businesses that the reason it is so hard to find a really good horseshoer is because if he's really good, he's booked.
yeah.
And people just
Mhm.
have him booked up. And he just goes around to the same people every 6 or 8 weeks and keeps them on a schedule. And so, yeah, that's if you're good at what you do, you never have to look for work.
Are
That's
there
why you don't see a lot of advertisements for horseshoers.
so true. Are there any schools people can go to learn that, or how does one go about learning to shoe horses?
Yeah, there's a couple really good schools. There's one in Idaho. The most famous one is down in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma School of Horseshoeing. There's several others around, and really, as well as you can go and be an apprentice with somebody who is a horseshoer. And how I really got into it was when I was working the dude ranches in Jackson. Of course, all of those horses, we'd have 25 horses on the place. Well, they all needed shod. And when we'd hire horseshoers to come in, I would just jump in with them and learn as much as I could. And then I went and apprenticed with some other horseshoers, and that's really how I learned. I never went to one of the schools, but when there's young kids around and I, try to mentor as many as I can, I'll take them and show them and help them a little bit before they ever go to the school, because I don't recommend, if you've never crawled under a horse and tried it, to suddenly go to the school, because that is a little bit of trial by fire right there. So you want to go and kind of get your toes wet just a little bit before you make the investment and the time and money.
Well, it's also not for the faint of heart as far as physical, Kevin. Like if you're gonna be shoeing horses, you have to be physically fit a little bit.
It's a pretty good workout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's a lot of bending over and a lot of holding up an animal that sometimes doesn't really want to hold his leg up for you. You have to hold it up for them sometimes.
Well, Kevin, you mentioned you're based out of the Douglas area. How long have you been in Douglas? First off.
Oh, I guess I moved to Douglas about 2007, 2006, somewhere in there. I've lived quite a few places. I've lived in just about every corner of Wyoming except the southwest corner. I never made it to there, but
Okay.
I've lived just about everywhere else. I've worked in on ranches in 5 different states, and so yeah. And then I came here to work for a big ranch, training horses. And once I decided to leave there, I just went out on my own and bought a little place, and here I am.
Well, Douglas is really booming.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a energy city, and what's funny is I could make so much more money if I would just go ahead and go take one of those energy jobs, those uranium
Sure.
mines and gas and coal and everything else. But, I don't know what I would do making $80 an hour and working half the hours that I do. Like I always say, I work a lot of hours at not having a real job.
Yes, I feel the same in my world. But when you're a cowboy like you are, Kevin, it's nonstop, 24/7, 365. The animals don't care, what the weather is. They still have to be fed. Like you said, a lot of monotonous work as well. But since you are our honorary cowboy, it's just good to be able to, present that to folks. We have a lot of listeners and followers, not only in the state but outside of it. And I think folks think it's a really glamorous lifestyle, but I think it's good to remind folks how tough a work it is and how long of days it can be. And sometimes you're not working for a few hours, but it's, every day at some point.
Yeah, and like you said, the livestock, they don't care if it's Christmas or your birthday, or they just have no feelings whatsoever. They're very impolite
Yeah,
that way.
selfish.
Yeah, but this is what I'll say is, and I don't mean to complain and say, because I owe to the horse and to the cattle and to the land, and that's what keeps a person doing it, is those little moments at the crack of dawn when you get to see the sunrise almost every morning, and you find those peaceful little moments, and or in the evening when the shadows grow long and you've accomplished something that day. You can look back, and not every job is like that. You can look back every day and see what you have accomplished and take pride in that.
Yeah, I love that. And something that I recently got into is I'm raising pigs now, Kevin. So if you want to buy a pig from me, just reach out. I'm trying to make wedding money. But last year I raised 2 pigs. I had a Duroc and a Yorkshire, and it really, I don't know how to explain this to people. I know a good distance where my pig pens are. They're way out there every single morning, and it was just the best way to start my day. Yeah, I could have probably taken a walk by myself without having the pigs, but if I didn't have the pigs to make me get out there,
Yeah.
it was just awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to find that motivation when there's somebody or something else dependent on you to do it.
Right.
There's no such thing as hitting the snooze alarm 5 times and saying, "Well, I'll just walk twice as far tomorrow."
Right. Or when it's snowy outside, like I just am not going to go outside. Well, you have to feed the animals. So,
Yep, yep, that's right, and that's the thing is the worse the weather is, the worse they need you.
yeah, it's very true. And it's very important to be out there when it is bad weather. Well, what is on Kevin's cowboy agenda for today? You mentioned it's nice. Are you going to
Well
just do some front porch sitting?
well, I would really love to sit here and tell you that's what I'm gonna do, but I imagine I'll probably do what I do every day is I'll go get the chores done, and I got them half done right now, and we get off of here, I'll go out and saddle some horses and get to riding.
All right, Kevin. Well, it's such a pleasure chatting with you. I can't wait to chat with you again. I hope you're on the schedule again while Jake's gone.
Yeah, I'll be here again next Tuesday, and appreciate you filling in for him. It really is nice to have somebody who's good at this for a change.
I'll tell him you said that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. You have a fantastic day.
You too. Nice to meet you.
Bye bye. All right. That was great to get Kevin, our honorary cowboy, as I call him, on. Obviously, extremely popular in the country is watching our Cowboys and Wyoming. And so being able to hear from him and just reminding folks, I live on a farm, an 80-acre farm. My fiance's family, very into agriculture and ranching. And so everything that Kevin was talking about and just the amount of time and dedication it takes is something that I know to be just ever so true. And so it's great to not only give some kudos to our Cowboys, but also hear a little bit from Kevin and maybe encourage some of the younger folks out there that are wanting to get involved with horses. Maybe horseshoeing is something that they're interested in. And Kevin said there are schools for that. There are ways to learn firsthand, which he recommends because really that firsthand experience from a good farrier, somebody who shoes horses, is probably the best experience there. So great to hear from Kevin, our honorary cowboy with the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shereen, filling in for Jake.
Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Core, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, energy issues in the Powder River Basin, or grizzlies in Yellowstone, our talented crew of experienced journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in DuBois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean to our everyday lives? Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily Video Newscast every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com. You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Who can you turn to for news you can trust? Your local TV and radio broadcasters. You trust us to keep you safe during times of crisis and to deliver the weather, sports, and entertainment you rely on every day. We bring you the facts you need to make decisions that matter. And as misinformation floods social media, you can trust your local stations to deliver the truth. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress you rely on your local stations for trusted news.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake on this beautiful day. I had to open up the window over there just to get the sun shining in. I love this beautiful day. Beautiful spring weather in Wyoming as we approach a day will be in the 70s most of the state for Thursday. Don Day, of course, has all of that in his forecast and more. And this weekend, though, expect some rainier conditions and potentially some snow at higher elevations. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. It's been a lot of fun. I have really enjoyed enjoyed getting to know the reporters and the folks that are behind these stories that you and I consume on a daily basis. And so I love being able to chat with them, hear from them, and then finding out little cool things and quirky things about each one of the editors and journalists and columnists and folks that we have on the show. I know we have an author that's coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. A topic that I wanted to discuss, and I wasn't really sure when I wanted to discuss it because there wasn't really a why, except minus the fact that I'm getting married next year, February of 2026. Why wait so long? Because February is the only month that my fiance is available to get married. And so we got engaged in August. And so I didn't want to do it this February. And so I had to wait until February of 2026. But we chose to get married in Arizona. And I think that that was a great idea. February in Arizona is phenomenal. But it really brought to mind so many people reached out to me and said, why are you getting married in Arizona? Why are you not getting married in Wyoming or Montana, where I lived most of my life? First off, Montana is crazy price-wise. And so this map started circulating that shows that an average wedding is $20,000 in Montana, 26 in Wyoming, and 32 in Arizona. So I reached out to a few of my friends that actually are involved in weddings. One of them is a phenomenal wedding planner, Autumn, out of the Missoula area, and she's been doing it a long time. And then my other friend, Holly, she's a part of a rental company, a venue, and on and so forth, and has been doing the wedding expo up in Kalispell for I don't know how long. I sent them this data on 20,000. I said 20,000 for a Montana wedding. You have to be kidding me. I said, that's way low compared to some of the weddings that I know of. I used to DJ weddings up in Montana, and 20,000 for, especially since the show Yellowstone came out and just so many glamorous weddings in Montana. She said she thinks the number is lower because they have such a short wedding season, so they can't pack in as many weddings as other areas, which is how they get the data and information on how much a wedding costs. They use averages. And so, for example, Arizona has a huge wedding season, so they have a lot more weddings. And so their wedding expenditure in the state is more than Wyoming or Montana. Now, Wyoming, really the only expensive place to get married in Wyoming, according to this data, is Jackson Hole. As many of us here know, Jackson Hole can be extremely expensive, and they say $200,000 is a Jackson wedding. They say they can start at $10,000, but honestly, Jackson Hole, Wyoming is one of the largest margins of weddings in the country. Now, we know Teton County is the richest county in the country, but their wedding cost, the gap is enormous. So they said you could get married in Jackson Hole for $10,000, or it could cost you $200,000. Other areas in Wyoming are like $5,000, could cost you $25,000, not $200,000. But of course, we all know Jackson Hole, a popular destination wedding location, and those prices can definitely range. In 2023, the average wedding cost in Wyoming was $25,000, ranking at 50th out of 51 states with the median cost. And that's what I look at because I'm on the lower end of things when it comes to a wedding and getting married. So the median cost in Wyoming is $14,000, just shy of $15,000, which actually puts it in the middle of the pack for affordability. The average wedding cost at $25,000. Median wedding cost is the $14,009, just under the $15,000 mark. I thought this was interesting. In 2023, how much money do you think was spent on weddings just in Wyoming? In 2023, what do you think is the total for wedding expenditure in Wyoming? All the weddings in 2023, how much do you think they spent in Wyoming? Just shy of $106 million in 2023 was spent on weddings in Wyoming. Yes, just the Wyoming wedding market, $106 million. I also realized I got in the wrong business when I started planning my wedding and people started sending me quotes. First off, I realized that I DJ'd weddings for way too cheap. Most of them were for friends and people that I knew. Secondly is I want to DJ my own wedding. Is that a terrible idea to DJ my own wedding? But I'm A, OCD and crazy about that. But B, I also don't want to spend $3,000 on a wedding DJ when I am and have been a wedding DJ. Maybe Jake will DJ my wedding off. Hey, I filled in for you. Can you DJ my wedding? But yeah, just the photography too. I had 3 or 4 quotes on wedding photographers. $20,000. One was starting at $15,000. This is starting. And I guess they're that much because they're luxury wedding photographers and you have a chance of getting published in some big magazine, which I care nothing about, so I'm not going to spend that much. But I did find out there is difference between a luxury wedding photographer, which runs you starting at $15,000, to the other photographers, which I'm looking at for about $2,500, which is already a lot, but well-deserved for their art and the craft that they're really good at. And so I don't want to spend $15,000 on a wedding photographer. But that reminded me of just how lucrative the wedding business is. And like I mentioned, just in Wyoming in 2023, $106 million was spent on weddings. So I also might start a wedding venue on my property. It feels like that might be a good idea. So wish me luck in my wedding planning. Things have kind of slowed down on that. We get married, like I said, February of 2026 down in the Phoenix area. Chose that. I wanted to get married in Tucson. It, by the way, is a top 5 wedding destination in the country. I had no idea. I would have thought Florida, some places in California. But it's also at 3,500 feet. And so it actually gets chilly in February. And there's been times I was there in January years back and it was a little chilly. So it's hit and miss in Tucson for good weather in February. And so I just didn't want to plan a wedding and travel from Wyoming in February to have cooler weather. And so Phoenix has lower elevation. It's just a little warmer in the February time for a wedding. So as I'm looking at some of the costs too for weddings across the country to East Coast, all of them are starting at $30,000 to get married. So getting married is not cheap, but I think it's a wonderful thing. A lot of people are like, why are you spending money on a big party for somebody else? But I have a lot of reasons and a lot of reasons myself. I was raised by my grandma and she just so near and dear to me. And she passed away 11 years ago. But I grew up without either one of my parents and I finally have them both in my life. I found my father on Ancestry.com. Grew up never knowing who my biological father was. It made me feel weird. I was made fun of in school. But my mom didn't know, my grandma didn't know, and my mom is back in my life too after having a colored life. In her colored past, she is sober and on the straight and narrow, and so I have my mom and dad in my life, and I thought that was a really impactful thing for me to get married. I think before I found my father on Ancestry, I kind of didn't want to get married because I didn't have anybody to walk me down the aisle. It was so unorthodox, I felt like. And now just kind of having those pieces in my life, I feel like I do want to have a wedding. And if it's big and expensive, that's okay. I mean, I hope it's not super expensive, but that's kind of for me why I want to have an actual wedding is I have both of my parents in my life for the first time ever. I spend money. Way too much money on a wedding, and hopefully it all goes well. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, March 25th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. A string of attacks on Tesla vehicles, chargers, and dealerships nationwide has some Wyoming Tesla owners bristling. People outraged at Elon Musk's agenda to terminate some government employees and cut spending in other ways, or his affiliation with Trump, have taken Molotov cocktails and other destructive devices to Tesla products and properties this year. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland spoke to several Wyoming residents who own the electric vehicles.
I talked to two, one who does not like Elon Musk and one who's like, yeah, no, he's just trying to cut waste. He's trying to improve things. And so it was really interesting to me to hear them both say, what the heck is going on? Like, I thought you could own property in this country, despite them both having different feelings towards the CEO of a company that they believe makes an excellent product. Neither have seen their Cybertrucks attacked.
The controversy over Tesla vehicles reached Wyoming on Saturday when an unknown suspect or suspects spray-painted swastikas on 4 Tesla chargers in Rock Springs. No one had been caught as of Monday, as the area surveillance video coverage was not ideal. A lawsuit filed against the campaign arm of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus is being allowed to continue in court. On Friday, 3rd Judicial District Court Judge Richard Lavery rejected a request from the Freedom Caucus to dismiss a lawsuit filed against it for defamation. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that the lawsuit was filed by 2 state legislators over what they said were misleading political propaganda the Freedom Caucus Political Action Committee put out against them last year.
This lawsuit was filed over mailers and text messages accusing Representatives J.T. Larson and Cody Wiley, 2 Republicans from Rock Springs, of voting to keep Trump's name off the ballot in the 2024 election. Wiley and Larson really felt like their names were defamed in these mailers and text messages.
The case will now move into the discovery phase, which can involve the required release of communications and other documents pertaining to a case. An executive order by President Donald Trump has rare earth mining companies in Wyoming pitching to investors as mining and refining projects in the state move forward. A recent marketing video for American Rare Earths Limited, which is developing the Halleck Creek Rare Earth Project near Wheatland, referenced the importance the president is giving the topic. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that Wyoming is positioned to move into a marketplace that appears poised to expand given Trump's push to accelerate production.
Wyoming is particularly well poised to take advantage of that emphasis on activity on federal lands, and really anywhere you can find concentrations of these metals and elements that have science fiction-like names and are found in everything in modern life, from your cell phones to a fighter jet to your computer.
The executive director of the Wyoming Mining Association told Cowboy State Daily that those in the field are pleased to see the Trump administration embrace the priorities of the mining industry. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
Well, March 21st was Black Friday for bingo in Cody. That's the day the Wyoming Gaming Commission called 3 local bars to inform them that their popular bingo night promotions were a no-go. Cowboy State Daily's Andrea Rossi spoke to the owner of Cody Craft Brewing, one of the 3 establishments to get the call. He was told that the bingo games have been going on for several years, but no one knows why someone decided to tip off the Gaming Commission now.
According to Wyoming statute, you can only have bingo games if you're a 501c3 nonprofit that's doing it for charitable purposes. So there's a bunch of places in Cody that have been doing bingo, and at least one of them wasn't offering any kind of cash prizes. But then one person made an anonymous complaint to the Wyoming Gaming Commission and reported all 3 of these businesses and called them out for having illegal gambling.
The complaint against Cody Craft Brewing, Brew Guards, and the Silver Dollar was submitted anonymously online. The owner of Cody Craft Brewing has submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to see if the complainant's identity can be divulged. He said he's not looking for retribution, just understanding. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. There was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, "I want to see you." No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, "Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic." A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Learn more at helpheart.org.
All right, welcome back. Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake on this beautiful Tuesday morning. I had to open up the blinds, the curtains, just get the sun in. It's absolutely gorgeous. In my neck of the woods today will be in the 60s. It looks like by Thursday we're expected to have 75 in central Wyoming. I know I'm excited about that. Dawn says, of course, expect a little bit of some precip across the entire state for the weekend, which is much needed. When we get the information on the snow water equivalent in the mountains, which is always really important, we find out actually how much moisture the snow itself holds. It'll give us a little bit better of an idea how we're going into summer. Dawn did mention the east part of the state is just in dire need of some of the spring precip that should be heading our way this weekend. I know that I'm all about it. I love fly fishing, love water for the wildlife. We actually have an organization here that's called that, but water is key. And so if we don't have the water, we don't have the wildlife. We don't have the fishes either. So I'm really excited to hopefully find out that we're going to have not such a drought of a summer, but I'm just crossing my fingers. I like to be very optimistic when it comes to that. You missed it earlier. We did Today in Wyoming Daily History. I have no idea where Jake finds all the cool things that he does every day on this day in history in Wyoming, but I found a couple. Today in Wyoming Daily History, 1918, the Wyoming Tribune newspaper changed its name to the Wyoming State Tribune. In 2008, a magnitude 4.5 earthquake occurred about 48 miles from the center of Cody. So again, today in Wyoming Daily History. So we went back to 1918 and a little bit more recent with 2008. As a lot of folks are celebrating spring break, according to AAA, spring break travel destinations are up for warmer destinations. And then the flip side of that is the number one searched out spring break style, I guess, for Gen Zers is cowboy core. They really have a desire to don that cowboy Western attire and then also visit Western themed or Western styled destinations, which Wyoming and the Rocky Mountain region definitely has that. But when you put the warm part into the destination, they might want to go to places like Texas or Oklahoma, where you can still get that Western style and maybe some warmer weather. But we do have a lot of folks from Europe, actually. I learned from the Wind River Visitors Council that the number one search thing over in Europe is like Western style, Western themed in Wyoming. The state itself is actually searched quite a bit over in European culture. Obviously, we talked about really vibing with the cowboy core. It seems really popular. I talked to Kevin Meyer, who is the honorary cowboy that we have on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. He took off his cowboy hat. Obviously, he's very professional and respectful, but I just kind of had to chuckle and talk to Kevin about, the cowboys in Wyoming aren't trying to be cool, but it definitely seems like their style is being imitated. And then also he mentioned you could sell a lot of that cowboy gear we all have laying around and those old crusty jeans and old crusty chaps that I have, probably get a good amount for them on eBay because of the popularity of things. And so Kevin also mentioned you might as well capitalize on it a little bit, right? Because it comes and goes. Kevin said, things were so popular. John Wayne days, he wasn't really a cowboy, but definitely making that lifestyle and image very popular. And then the Cowboys kind of fell off, and then Taylor Sheridan came in, and here they are back being ever so popular. So if you do clean out that closet and you see some cool Western style wear or attire, you might want to look into getting rid of that online marketplace, eBay, one of those, and yeah, actually benefiting a little bit from it. Although I always promote donating to great organizations if you do have a lot of leftover clothes, but you might want to just peek through and see if there's some Western style or Western themed attire that you'll be able to maybe actually get rid of. So just finding out with spring break and how popular the cowboy lifestyle is just from when AAA reports on Gen Zers trying to make their spring break all about Western themed locations, Western style attire. Kind of cool. It's kind of cool actually to think about how much we are making, I guess, an impact, I would say, or maybe not an impact, but how much of a inspiration we're giving to folks just by living here in Wyoming, living the Wyoming way of life, and being Western. So I think Jiggy Buckaroo sang some Western song. I saw they did a story about Jiggy Buckaroo. I think he's from Buffalo. He's a country rapper. He's really talented. And I kind of found out about him because he was on one of those reality TV shows. And then I saw Ian Munsick share about him as well. So I think he's gaining a lot more popularity too. And it goes hand in hand with that Western style and that Western theme being really popular. So if there was a time that country rap could shine, I think it would be right now. CowboyStateDaily.com, and make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel and be able to be involved in breaking news, all of the local stories, and stay subscribed so you find out when Jake is coming back. All right, we have Renee Jean joining the show this morning. Renee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. What are you up to this morning?
I am back from vacation.
Ooh, tell me about vacay.
Oh yeah, I went to see my my grandson and my new granddaughter.
Oh wow.
And that was pretty cool. I got to read books to my grandson.
Oh, that's so cute, Renee. Now where do they live at?
They live in St. Louis.
Oh, awesome. You got some good barbecue then?
I did.
That's always what I think of with St. Louis is I'm like, if I ever make it there, Renee, I have to get some good barbecue. Oh my gosh.
We get that to
Yep, I see him now.
it's hard
Oh,
to
it's hard.
it won't
Wants to show you instead of him on.
I can't get it to
Oh,
focus.
it's
Sorry.
doing, yeah, it's blurring out him, but not you. You look fabulous. You look like you're all glowing like grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go on vacation.
Yeah. So you're back from vacay. What are you working on right now for Cowboy State Daily?
I'm probably gonna do a little update on the postal system. It was Louis DeJoy's last day. He has left the building, folks. Kinda like an Elvis moment.
Yep, yeah, gotta always bring in the king.
Yeah, and, uh, I did over the weekend, we had the story about the wild Mustang, veterans and wild Mustangs, and we had, yeah, the kit home,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
yeah. Those kit homes are pretty cool. Uh,
Those kit homes?
yeah.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
Alright.
Yeah, people
Uh
just, people could get kit homes, right?
Right. They used to be kind of a big deal, from I think it was about uh when did they have their heyday? 1910 to the 1950s, right?
Mhm.
Most of the kit home companies quit making these in the 50s after World War II. But one in particular kept going until the 1980s. That was the Aladdin kit homes. I think most people are more familiar with the Sears kit homes, right?
Right.
They somehow marketing wise they won that game, but Aladdin kit homes were actually more common in Wyoming. distance was a factor there. Sears had its headquarters in Chicago. Uh, so, the further west you go, the more the shipping costs. But so we had a lot more Aladdin homes, and Aladdin was actually the first kit home builder in the United States. So they were not only before Sears, but they long by far outlasted them.
Sounds like
And
it.
we found a pretty cool one there in where was that? Sorry, in Wheatland.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
we have a couple of people, Andrew and Wendy Much. They are known as the Kit House Hunters. They track these down all over the country using they got like sales records from the Aladdin company, and they are using that to kind of identify these homes and put together their histories. And it's really kind of a cool project, I think.
It is awesome, Renee. I love that you're involved in these things. I also think it's so cool how it's still standing more than 100 years later. So these were pretty good kit homes.
Right. They were.
Yeah, sounds like it. Renee, you get a chance to travel around. Do you remember when we did the Yellowstone Highway trek? I was on that trip with Jackie Dorothy.
Yeah,
And you were there.
I do.
Yeah, you were there covering it too. And I just thought, these folks are everywhere. How many miles do you travel around the state sometimes? Are you from one end to the next, or do you kind of keep in one
Oh
area?
yeah, I crisscross the state summer line. It's thousands of miles.
You guys are
It is.
always on the go.
Yeah, I have to get back once a day every week. That's what the lease requires, right? You can't be absent more than 7 days. Uh, Something happens in your apartment, they're gonna say, "Oh, it's
Yep.
your fault. You weren't there."
Well, yeah, and if you're not there, you don't know what happened, so it is good to have to go back, I guess, but it does, remind you of, the work that journalists and reporters put in with some of the writing that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of miles and stuff. Well, Renee, what else? When do you get to see your grandbabies next?
I don't know.
Already planning a next vacation?
No, I always just kinda wait on my daughter's invitation for that, right? Uh
Oh, you're such a sweet mom, yeah, I suppose it's good to do that.
Yeah.
Great.
The other cool story that I did over the weekend was about the veterans and wild horses. I thought this was a really cool story because these are veterans who are not connecting and other are not getting help with the PTSD that they've suffered. They get hooked up with a horse that's called a three striker. So, after three adoption events, these wild Mustangs don't have a new owner. They face kind of an uncertain future. This program over near Lusk, it's south of JM, which is near Lusk. Um, they pair these veterans up with these horses that have this uncertain future, and they kind of help both of them have a better outcome. I think it's a really cool program.
Yeah, and it's really great to be able to bring that to your readers and the viewers and the listeners with Cowboy State Daily. I think the picture, I love the picture, Renee. I'm not gonna get all emotional about it, but the picture is worth 1,000 or more words that you used on the featured image. Just well done.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the better photos, really. And they sent me those photos. Obviously, they don't do the program in the winter right now because they don't have a space to do it. They are looking at building an indoor arena where they could have this program a little more often. They only do 5 or 6 vets each time. They do a couple of these a year. So right now their capacity is, maybe a dozen people. They'd like to obviously increase that a little bit.
Sure.
And I really loved the veteran Megan Ross from Florida was talking about horses and how they can hear your heart beating from far, far away. And I really that just like really I thought was eye popping
Mhm.
information to know that that horse and that way.
And I like that you're bringing some light to our veterans and PTSD. If there's anything I can ever do to support our veterans, I'm 100% on board. Renee, do you know if a veteran can reach out to them for some help or?
I would think so. They do have a website. Uh, I'd have to Google it in order to tell you what it is right now, but they do have a website, and I'm pretty sure they would love to have volunteers, donations, etc. And also people can apply for the program. But I at this point I don't exactly know off the top of my head how they would do that. But
Well, you can read the story, or you know what you can do? You can also email Renee at cowboystatedaily.com. And if you do have any questions on any stories she does, right, she might be able to help you find the folks easier, or just Googling. You can also search on Cowboy State Daily's website, which is something I like to do. If I hear Jake talking about something, I'll just go in and type it in, and the story comes right up. Renee, are you working on anything else fun coming up here? Any treks you're going to be going on this summer?
well, I'm kind of collecting ideas for that now. So I think if people have ideas, cool things that they think Cowboy State Daily readers would be interested in, they can always email me, as you were suggesting.
I have one for you. You can come join me. Lander Brewfest. It is awesome. The Lander Chamber of Commerce. It's the second week of June, but it's the best brew fest in the West, they call it. And it's really a unique brew fest, Renee. I think that it's worth covering. There's some distillers there.
Send me an email about it.
I will. I'm going to. I just said I'm going to email you now. I told others to do it. I'm going to do it. But I do love seeing you out and about. I've personally seen Renee out on treks and stuff. Like I said, I just think that's so cool that the Cowboy State Daily crew is sending folks all over the state and finding it important enough to have you at pretty much everything. All right, Renee, that does it for us.
All right.
All right. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
All right. We are now going to be joined by an author. Helen Sheehy is going to be joining us. Let's get Helen in here. Helen, you there? Oh, maybe I zapped her. Hopefully. Oh, there she is. Helen, how are you? Oh, she's connecting. 1 second. Helen is an author, and she'll be joining us to talk about her book. We'll get some more information as well. Helen, are you there? I think your audio is still connecting, so just hang on a second, okay? I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, all right? All right,
Want to stay in touch with what's happening around Wyoming? I'm Wendy Core, host of the Cowboy State Daily video newscast. From Mountain View to Upton, from Jackson to Cheyenne, our reporters are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. Every day, I talk to the talented journalists who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites. And in our daily newscast, I bring you their stories. Tune in to Cowboy State Daily video news every morning, only on cowboystatedaily.com.
Wyoming is a big state. There are so many stories to tell, and here at Cowboy State Daily, we pride ourselves in bringing those stories to you every day. I'm Riley Strand, videographer and production assistant for Cowboy State Daily Video News. Every day, host Wendy Core and I talk to the experienced journalists who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites. And in our daily newscast, we bring you their stories. Tune in to Cowboy State Daily Video News every morning, only on cowboystatedaily.com.
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Meet Norm. He lives with anxiety, but with the help of this latest innovation from Be Normal, he can be normal, just like everyone else. With the swipe of a finger, you can project happiness, confidence, machismo. Why settle for being real when you can be normal? The Normal Maker, new from Be Normal. This item doesn't really work because there's no such thing as normal. We're all different. What we like, how our brains work. In fact, 1 in 5 of us live with mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Start by talking to someone you trust. And remember, there is no normal.
All right, we are back. I'm Shireen. We have Helen joining the show. Helen, how are you? Can you hear me?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so excited to have you on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. First off, where are we talking to you at? Where are you in Wyoming, or what state are you in?
In Connecticut.
Oh, awesome. Wait, you're way
where
far
it's
away.
not windy.
Oh, so windy here, Helen. It's crazy. 116-mile-per-hour winds yesterday, 75 at my place.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's like hurricane style for sure.
That would blow me away.
Pun intended. I love it.
Yes.
Well, Helen, before we dive into your book, can you tell the Cowboy State Daily crew just a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I'm a farm kid. I grew up on tenant farms in Oklahoma and Kansas. So I love your name, by the way, Cowboy State Network. I love cowboys. In fact,
Woohoo.
after we talk, I'm going to go ride my horse, teaching her to play soccer.
What?
Seriously, seriously, yes, kicking a ball. Who would have thought it?
Oh, you
I
need to
don't
send
know.
me a video, please.
I do actually. I have one. It's
Awesome.
it's very slow, but she does it and she likes it.
That's
It's very
awesome.
strange. So anyway, I grew up on tenant farms in Oklahoma and Kansas, and I left home to go to college about when I was 18, East Coast. So I sort of lost touch with my roots, and so I sort of lived that, New York publishing, writing books. But then after I did that, I thought, I know all about these famous women, but I know so little about my mother. Her father founded Freedom, Oklahoma, which is an amazing place. It is just one of the best places on the planet. And it's so gorgeous. It's on the Cimarron River, the high prairie. If you see the cover of my book, that is an actual picture of my mother, who is who's it's in 1935, treeless high prairie. So he homesteaded there, and so really the whole obsession with writing this book was to figure out who she was. Oh, wait, I have a copy of the book right here. Can you see
I love it.
this?
Yes, just Willa.
Just Willa. There's the high prairie there, not a tree in sight. But granddad, who wants to dig up tree stumps? So it's a great place to homestead.
And so
Um,
your mom's name was Wilma?
It was Wilma, her real name, but the character I based her on, well, she was based on Willa is based on Wilma, basically.
Right.
Because I had to make a lot of stuff up because we were a family that we don't have archives, we don't have all this, and it's too long to get into, but a lot of our memorabilia that we had was all burned up. So I had very few things to go on, but I did research. I walked the land. I talked to her family. I learned all about boxing
Wow.
and bootlegging. My daddy was all about that and about the Dust Bowl. And I discovered.
The Dust
Did you?
Bowl.
Am I coming through?
Well, it's a little broken up.
Yes.
It's a little broken up, Helen, but we're fine. You're catching up. It's great. The Dust Bowl.
Oh, good. Okay.
The crazy Dust Bowl. I've
Yes.
heard so
It
much.
was awful.
And your family lived through the Dust Bowl and
Yes. Our family were the Okies who stayed. They stayed and stuck it out. And part of that, one of the reasons they survived was because my granddad, he really researched it and he figured out that if you tear, he was able to actually have some crop at some point. But yeah, it got some of it, the drought and the dust, but not as bad as Oklahoma and panhandle of Texas and New Mexico.
well, the lack of trees and that dust, it just goes for miles and miles.
It does. I know. I know. In fact, probably some of that farm is in Wyoming now. So we may want to go claim that.
Yeah, you might have to come get your dust back.
Exactly.
Well, Helen, how do folks find Just Willa?
They can pre-order it now. They can go to their local bookstore and pre-order it. They can order it online. Any online place you like to go, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, bookshop.org. But I really encourage you to go to your local bookstore and support them and pre-order it. It's coming out on April 13th. That's the pub date. And that, through some sort of weird synchronicity, is the 40th anniversary of my mother's death. So I don't know how that happened. It did. So sort of important to me.
It kind
I
of
know.
seems like
It's weird.
fate. That seems like fate, aligns
It
there.
does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. It really does. You know, when I thought about writing this, I thought, who cares about an ordinary farm woman? I've written about all these famous women. Does anybody really care? It. And I spent the last, I think, 5 to 10 minutes talking about Jake and Willa and the Dust Bowl and boxing and bootlegging and all these family secrets and drama. They could care less about these famous women. They just wanted to know that story. So that really gave me courage. But Shereen, that was 20 years ago. So I've spent about 20 years of my life working on this, off
Wow.
and on, but it did take a while.
And what did you find out about yourself through this process?
Oh boy. Well, I found out one thing, which isn't as deep, I guess, but my entire life, I thought I was my daddy's girl. I thought that, he was a storyteller. He loved to tell stories. He's very optimistic. He's very upbeat, but he had some problems. But what I realized after I finished this book that and I asked my husband and he confirmed it. I said, I realized I'm not like daddy at all. I'm like mama because, I'm kind of this person who makes plans and get things done. And that's who she was. She was basically the CEO of our farm, and we were all just sort of her workers. I mean, she did everything. She knew how to doctor people and animals. She could fix a clutch on a track. She was
Wow.
just sort of an extraordinary human being. But I think people in Wyoming and people in the Midwest, you just have to get it done. You
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out how to do it because there's nobody who's going to come.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why your book will be loved by people in Wyoming, Helen. So I appreciate you getting on the show
Oh, I
because
hope so because I wanted to not romanticize rural life because I lived that life.
yeah.
And it is, oh my God, it's just back raping work. No vacations,
Nope. Nope.
Never. Oh, are you a farm girl?
I
Did
am.
you?
I live on an 80-acre farm right now. I was just talking to a guy on the
Oh,
show. I have pigs I raise in the summer, and then we have.
pigs, me
Yeah.
too.
Oh, awesome. Cool. I'll have to get all
I
your
love,
pig
I
info.
had a Duroc jersey.
Oh, I have a.
Red,
Yes, I have a Duroc. I had a Duroc last year, and I best pork I've ever had. And then I'm getting Yorkshires this year because I couldn't
oh
find a
yeah,
Duroc.
those are the white ones,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Aren't the white
Yeah.
ones Yorkshires?
Yep.
Yeah. No, Red Queen. I loved her.
They're the
They're so
best.
smart.
They are. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And you know what? It's a labor of love. And so I really feel connected to you, Helen, because it's kind of
Oh,
why I like homesteading is I'm trying to learn, even though I don't actually butcher the pigs myself. I'm not at that
mm-hmm.
point. I don't know if I can.
Right.
But I did want to raise my own meat and be able to
Yes.
provide for my family and it be sustainable. And I feed those pigs an amazing diet.
Oh yeah.
And just the best pork I've ever had.
Oh, I can imagine. Do you know, I'm convinced that one of the reason my teeth are good, and actually this woman, this Italian actress, she had amazing teeth, so she could actually smile in the 19th century because her teeth, but it was because she didn't have refined sugar. She was poor and she had a really healthy diet and didn't have all those sweets that say the French actresses had. And so growing up like that, you don't have, there's less inflammation. All of that is so important in your diet. Oh yeah, we had gardens. We butchered well, I know that I saw my dad shoot a hog and butcher it. I mean, we didn't, I know he hung it up,
Yep.
on the chain. Um, but I don't recall, I think we took it to the locker
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they cut it up,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. But just being able to kind of let people into the homesteading world and
Yes.
what those women did, and if we can kind of get back to a little bit of that, I think would be kind of cool. Yeah, if everything goes to
I agree.
if
I
everything
agree.
if everything goes to heck, Helen, then we know how to homestead and live off the land.
We do. We
Yep.
do.
And
Anyway, oh,
well,
this is so great talking to you. I can't believe I'm talking to a farmer, but of course you're in Wyoming, so
yeah, I mean, same with you. I mean, you're in Oklahoma or you're in Connecticut now, but because all the way,
Connecticut,
yeah.
right.
So, Helen, you do talk about homesteading in the book. That's obviously a big
Yes,
part
my
of it.
father.
Hmm.
Yes, granddad homesteaded around Freedom, Oklahoma.
So, I mean, right there, you had to learn a lot about homesteading to be able to write this.
I did, and there's so much incredible material out there. But you know what was really important to me were the local newspapers. I don't know if Wyoming has this tradition, but for example, the Freedom Call in Freedom, Oklahoma, they've been publishing a paper since, I mean, I think before they were well, after they were a state. So from the beginning of the 20th century. So those newspaper archives were incredible. I just bought a bunch of microfiche and read them. I mean, they put everything in the
Wow.
newspapers. It was great. And plus my grandmother actually wrote for the newspaper. So
Oh.
figure out what in Freedom, Oklahoma. Just yesterday, I was looking at wholesale. They sold all these bulls yesterday, and I could watch it online. So he is still there, a direct descendant, raising cattle. It's so cool. But now
Wow.
I know about it, and before I really didn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
So
research does and being able to write this book. Helen, this is a major labor of love for you. Just Willow, which comes out April 13th. It's great to hear from you. I encourage folks, if you have somebody who's a bookworm, to go ahead and let them know about this book. But also, just like I feel connected to Helen, you will feel connected to this book
oh,
as well because of the way she lived and her family's history. And
it does. I mean, I had to make a lot. I had to use the imagination because after a point, I don't know how my parents met, but I can sort of assume where they met. They probably met at a dance at Camp Houston. I'm sure they did. So then I could extrapolate from that. It was so much fun to get into their heads and figure out that, to figure out that life and sort of explore my own relationship with them and with her. And oh, and what I just realized too is that a lot of this is about being a mom, and I'm not a mother. Somebody asked me the other day on a podcast if I was, and I'm not. But oh boy, Willa has 6 kids, and it's just an extraordinary journey just to have all those kids. And I realized after I wrote it that every one of those children is different. They really are totally different. In fact, in talking to my brothers and sisters, I realized that you can have the same event in a family, but everybody's got a different interpretation of what happened. And I'm the baby that
oh,
earlier
okay.
drama.
Okay, so you're the baby of the family. I
I
do
am.
I do have to say that I think, and I don't have children either, but I do think that when you write a story that is about a family and children and from the point of a mother, like
Hmm.
Willa, from
Yes.
your mother Wilma, that when you don't have kids and you write it, you have such a different perspective and a different way of writing than maybe a
Yes.
parent actually would, and I think that's great.
Well, I love doing it. I loved sort of trying to figure that out because one of the one things I wanted to try to figure out was she pushed me to have a completely different life because she wasn't allowed to go to college or even go to high school. And I think that really hit her. So we were always pushed to get an education. And I clearly remember throwing a fit. I think I was about 12 because she wouldn't let me drive the tractor. And daddy wanted me to drive the tractor. I was just furious. I mean, it was horrible. I had a terrible temper tantrum. And now I'm so grateful that she didn't because I just read books. I mean, every day. That's what I did. She didn't want me to do that. So actually, I'm so grateful now. But at the time, I was really sorry. Like, why? Let me drive the tractor.
Yeah, she didn't want you to be a farm wife for the rest of your life.
She did not. She definitely did it. But actually, what I wanted to try to figure out was, okay, own life. So I think that's why it took me 20 years to come to the answer. And boy, did I learn a lot, but I'm satisfied that I kind of figured that out about her, why
Yeah.
she did that.
Yeah, that's great. Helen, you're a breath of fresh air to chat with. I hope folks get your book, Just Willa. It's coming out April 13th. Please support your local bookstores, but you can find it online as well and get it easy that way. Helen Sheehy, it's Sheehy, right? Did I say that right?
Yes, she.
Okay, great. Helen, I want to talk again and get an update from you. Is that okay one of these days?
Yes, Mrs. Pronoun. My teacher, my students called me.
Mrs. Pronoun. Were
I
you?
would love to do that.
Okay,
Love to.
great. All right, Helen, we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, that was great having Helen on. I loved finding out more about her life and her book, Just Willa. She was comes from homesteading family and 160 acres in Oklahoma. I think a lot of what she's written about will resonate with a lot of folks in Wyoming and also just people who I have folks who live in the city and they want to live that lifestyle of being able to homestead and raise their own animals and, do all the things that a lot of folks just had to do back in the day. So thanks for being here with us, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake.
From Yellowstone to Devil's Tower, the Bighorn Mountains to the Teton Range, Cheyenne to Sheridan, Rawlins to Ralston, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show covers the state like no other radio show or podcast. We love Lovell. We're eager to share the stories of Story, Will Crow About Crowheart, and Yodel Over Yoder. Whether you make your home in Sweetwater, Chugwater, Powder River, or Green River, the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show will make you feel right at home. Jeffrey City, Atlantic City, we see you. Little America, Big Piney, you're on our radar. Howdy, Wapiti, Meeteetse, Shoshone, Ten Sleep, good morning, welcome, Torrington, Riverton, Wheatland, Lusk, Lingle, Lander, Timber, Casey, Kerwin, Moorcroft, Mountain View, Moose, Fort Bridger, Fort Laramie, Fort Washington, Panda, Hudson, Hewlett, Dayton, Daniel, and DuBois. We are east of Weston, west of Midwest, north of Newcastle, and south of Sundance. Border to border, we love Wyoming and every one of its communities, bar none.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Wyoming is a place of unlimited potential, a place that inspires us to dream. Since 2014, Wyo Lotto has given back over $180 million to our great state through transfers, winnings, commissions, and more. Dollars that have gone directly into your cities, towns, and counties. Dollars that have changed lives and set dreams in motion. Thank you, Wyoming, for a legendary 10 years. We can't wait to dream up what's next.
Hey, glad to be back here. Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. I'm Shireen filling in for Jake. We're almost wrapped up with today's show. It's been fantastic. We've had cowboys and authors, old radio guys, John Beggs, who has a new show with Cowboy State Daily on Saturdays. And it's just been a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging with me. I know I'm not the norm as I'm filling in for Jake, but I'll be gone on Friday this week. And then I'm back next week and I'll be filling in for him as Jake is on spring break with a much well-deserved break, I should say. He's one of those guys that kind of make everybody look bad because he's just so great at everything and works so hard. So I appreciate you folks letting me come in here and fill in for Jake and hanging with you on this fine Tuesday as we've got beautiful weather. The sun is shining. I want to give a shout out to Julie Adelman from Teton Therapy. Teton Therapy has tons of locations across the state, but Julie's been listening. She's awesome and a great supporter, and she said she watched yesterday and today, and it's been great. Julie, I appreciate your support. I know you're being very kind and definitely can make things a little bit better, and of course, learn more from the Cowboy State Daily crew here, but I appreciate Julie from Teton Therapy reaching out and giving me a little support. I know her locally, but it's just always good. We did get some text messages yesterday too from some folks that sent some words of encouragement. And I could use all the encouragement I can get, but I also think it's just super important to know that we have folks that no matter what, their day might be out of whack because Jake's not here, the normalcy, things aren't exactly the same as he does a morning show. But even if their day is a little bit interrupted, they still send out, kudos and encouragement. And I think that's just such the Wyoming way of life. And so I really appreciate that, and can't wait to learn more about the Cowboy State Daily Crew and all the things that they are involved with. I know this weekend for our area, we have the Jackalope Jump in Riverton. Landers had theirs the previous weekend, and I always kind of go back and forth because I thought, well, Lander might actually have the worst weather. It's the earlier weekend. But they actually had decent weather. It was in the 50s and they had some sunshine. And now, reverse for Riverton this weekend, things might get just a little bit more on the cool side beginning on Saturday. And that's the day I think that they jump. But it looks like Don Day was mentioning that Sunday would be the real day that we'll actually see some precip and some rain showers across the state. Much needed precip, especially on the eastern side. So I hope they get that. I'll be traveling back on I 80 or traveling back, not going on I 80. I was going to say, where will I not be going on Sunday as potential for Arlington and Elk Mountain to see some snow? I won't be going on I 80. I'm also a little scared. I'm one of those weird drivers. I kind of have anxiety. I love not being distracted while driving, although it's something that I do, much like you probably do as well. But I've always signed off my radio show, 2 hands on the wheel, 2 eyes on the road. And so I do get a little, or I should say, safety shreen comes out when I'm driving, especially on I 80. But there's just been a number of interesting wrecks and tragedies on I 80 lately that just kind of keep me from wanting to go on it in general. So I have an option on Thursday to head down to Rollins and cut over on I 80 and then drop down 287. And I think it'll be 70s. I think I 80 would be okay that day. Now, on Sunday, when I'm coming back, it's expected to be rainy in the 40s, potentially in, around freezing at some of the higher elevations. And so I don't think that's a good idea to take that back on Sunday. But when I go down, I think it would be okay. And I do love seeing, I love passing by the mountains there and Encampment and Saratoga and on and so forth. And so I do love the scenery of the drive. It's one of my favorites. And for me personally, I'd rather see some of the scenery on I 80 than I would I 25. But when you get those dicey conditions and there's even a chance, I don't want to be on there. And plus, I'm always scared of the semi truck drivers. I'm always like sweating so bad or like clenching the wheel as I'm going by them. And yeah, they also say not trying to speed past them too much. And I feel like a lot of us get into those situations and we just want to get by them as quickly as we can. So hopefully everything goes well with the trip this weekend. If you're traveling back from spring break, if you're enjoying, a vacation and you're coming back, make sure you check that 511 YDOT app and be able to stay in the know on what's happening as far as the conditions go. Earlier this morning, Greg Johnson was checking the 511 app webcams for me to look at the stop sign challenge on Togety Pass. Of course, it's a challenge that is involved with covering the stop sign by Wind River Lake there completely. And people bet on it. They've got some stakes in the game. And so he was actually looking at the stop sign there. I don't know if do I have the right one? There we go. Wind River Lake. All right. So he was looking at the 511 app, which I am right now. And he said, oh, yep, you can just, it's gone down a little bit actually. Probably from the warmer weather. It's just below the stop sign. Just a little bit. Looks like maybe 2 inches. Before I couldn't even see the stand. I could just see the stop sign. So this warmer weather might be melting some of that snow, obviously. But again, this weekend they could actually see some snow in the higher elevations and on Togety Pass if they get that precip. But we'll find out if anybody wins that stop sign challenge there. But they only have until the 31st. So I doubt the snow will actually cover that stop sign at that point. A Tuesday morning in Wyoming. That's beautiful. The wind today, hopefully doesn't. Don said we'll get a break from the wind. He said it. If the most famous weather guy in Wyoming says we're not getting wind, you better believe it. So he says today, a lot less wind than yesterday. We had 116 mile per hour winds being reported on Mount Coffin. My weather guy here, Dave Lipson, he sent me 2 different readings on he has this weather stick that spins and he gets the readings and he'll just stand out for hours. No lie. And he got 2 right around 75 mile per hour wind gusts where I'm at. And then it was consistently 50. It was just crazy. I couldn't go. I looked like Beetlejuice. My hair was just on end. And we actually did something pretty cool yesterday in the wind. Again, I just mentioned to you 75 mile per hour winds, 50 pretty consistently. Well, we decided that it would be a good day to test out one of a gentleman that I work with, Patrick Lawson, and Wind River Internet, check out his Cybertruck. And so we took the Cybertruck. We were supposed to take it the week previously in the snow, but we couldn't make it out that day. We wanted to kind of show how it is in the snow. And so then we thought, well, we have 75 mile per hour winds. Let's take this Cybertruck out and kind of show what it's made of. So to be honest with you, I thought one of these panels are going to fall off. There's been just so much conversation about the panels falling off on the Cybertruck, and they've recalled pretty much all of them. So I'm sitting here videoing thinking one of these panels might fall off while we're driving. I don't know what to do then. We're live videoing too, by the way. That thing handled like a champ. When I was in my car trying to drive to meet the guy that I work with the Cybertruck, I was like having to hold on so tight. Like my muscles were so big from driving down the road. And we get into the Cybertruck and then it's full self-driving and he lets his hands off the wheel, which freaked me out. No feet on the pedals. And we were driving in that Cybertruck and a massive gust of wind picked up. And I thought for sure that Cybertruck would move. I mean, how does it battle the wind like that? It didn't move at all. And I get some pretty severe motion sickness, so I definitely feel any kind of movement. But yeah, the Cybertruck just did so well in the wind. And so there's been so many stories and so much information about the Cybertruck and a lot of people talking about the recall. But I'm here to tell you that we took that Cybertruck out in the Wyoming wind, where I have proof that we had 75 mile per hour gusts and 50 miles per hour consistently. And it handled like a champ. And there just wasn't any movement on the vehicle. And I think about how much we physically have to hold our cars. I thought, well, that is one benefit for sure. I'm still not totally sold on the aesthetic of the Cybertruck and how it looks, very angled and boxy, but I think that must make it more aerodynamic. It also has this hurry mode. You push the button on the Cybertruck and it'll just jet and go. And this hurry mode, I guess, makes it speed up to the next car. So for us, we're on Wyoming roads. There are no cars. There was one like 4 blocks up. Push the hurry mode. It was just like whoosh. Trying to catch up. I guess the hurry mode helps keep it with the speed of traffic, which if you're in a big city, a lot of folks that don't stay with the speed of traffic end up causing a lot of hiccups and a lot of slowdowns on the roadways there. So that's what that hurry mode is on the Cybertruck. So it won't really adhere to the speed limit. What it does is it ends up matching all of the traffic's speed at a consistent rate. So kind of nice. And depending on where you're at, some of the drivers, like when I was in Phoenix, I've never seen crazier drivers and I've traveled a lot. My nickname is Shireen the Adventure Queen. I've been all over the country. I have traveled so much, driven in LA, Chicago, all over Florida, and in Pittsburgh. I have never seen the crazier drivers than I have in Phoenix. Which I'm half concerned one of my guests at my wedding next year, which is in the Phoenix area, is going to get in an accident because that's how nuts it is. We were sitting at a stoplight. I just want to tell you the story real quick. I know I'm getting on a tangent here before we wrap up the show, but I was sitting at a stoplight, minding my business at a very, very busy intersection in Phoenix, Arizona, with a rental car. which, as many of you know, if anything happens while you're in a rental car, it's not good. You don't want to deal with that. I'm sitting at the stoplight, and it's a massive stoplight. And I don't know how this person smoked through this light and did this, but obviously traffic was going one way. Somebody just ran the red light. I don't even know how they got through because there was so much traffic, and hits this car, T-bones this car right in front of me in the rental car, which I'm, of course, like, oh my gosh, no, please. But what was crazier is this older gentleman is just standing at the intersection. He had been going on a run. So he was running. He probably had some earbuds in. I'm not sure. He stands at the intersection, and he's going to go this direction. And he turns his head at just the right moment. He probably heard the accident that just happened, getting T-boned. Well, the one silver car that got T-boned, who was in the right, ended up getting pushed all the way over onto the sidewalk where this gentleman was standing. He happened to look over at the right moment and flies backwards. And at the same time, the guy who is in the little silver car who has been just crunched, and I mean, it's like trajectory is just propelling him. He yanks so hard on his steering wheel. I mean, you see that he also doesn't want to hit the stop sign or the stoplight pole. So both of the person and the pole. He pulls his steering wheel, and he misses that guy and that pole just barely. And the other car that crunched the silver car was sitting there as well. And we were right there. And luckily, they didn't hit any vehicles that were, stopped at the light there. So anyways, the lesson here, folks, is that Phoenix really is. And another guy was going the wrong way down the road in Cave Creek, which is where we were staying. And then another person decided to pass somebody at an intersection, and the light was turning red, and they didn't realize that. So that was another big hiccup that I saw. So just overall, the places I've been, driving in LA many times, Seattle, all across the country, I would definitely argue that Phoenix is the absolute worst when it comes to driving. So if you want to argue with me, go ahead and reach out to Cowboy State Daily or myself on Facebook. I appreciate you hanging with me while I'm filling in for Jake. I do have some fun stuff. I'm trying to get Kathy Holman on the show. She's the parent of the young gal who went through just an unimaginable experience. It's definitely the most popular story, I think, on Cowboy State Daily right now. And hoping to hear from Kathy. I don't want to rehash everything for her and her daughter and her family and what they went through. I think the biggest thing for me, I want to know how they're healing after this process and how she's advocating for some stricter laws when it comes to digital or internet crimes potentially, but also mainly things that happen from an adult to a child. If you haven't read the story, cowboystatedaily.com, and you can find more there. So I'm hoping to get Kathy on tomorrow. I'm going to reach out to her and see if she's got some time. But this has been great. This has been fun. Tomorrow, I will probably talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The news is coming out that Aaron Rodgers might be playing for my Steelers. So not sure how I feel about it, but I think I'm going to go to a game this year if he does, because the Steelers and the Bills are playing. And we're all big Bills fans here in Wyoming. Go Josh Allen. So the Steelers and the Bills are playing this year. There is a chance they could play in Dublin. So I don't hope that one is where it's at, but it's supposed to be in Pittsburgh if it's not the Dublin game. And so I'll be talking a little bit about that if there is any news that breaks with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. But that does it for me. I'm Shireen, filling in for Jake on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. Remember, 2 hands on the wheel, 2 eyes on the road.